Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello, welcome to day 11 of the Olympic Games. Let's get to it, shall we? Great Britain looking for more equestrian medals in the individual show jumping final. Sonia McLaughlin.
Tension. Naga at the Palace of Versailles. Ben Mayer and Scott Brash both sit on four faults. They took the same pole down at the double. They could jump off for bronze, but one more clear would end their hopes of getting on the podium.
We're going to hear from the Golden Girl who delivered on the biggest stage.
People, writing me down as the gold medal favourite is such a privileged position to be in, but also kind of scary, and it is a lot to deal with. There was just a mixture of joy, excitement, relief, stress. It's all been over now, but it was amazing.
Keely Hodgkinson reflecting on a magical win in the women's 800 metres. Plus, Team GB's Sky Brown is going for gold at the skateboarding park.
Super special to me to, win a gold for Great Britain. Got closer last time, but I want to do it for them this time. GB has been really good support for me, and I want to do it for them.
We will bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sports website and app, or watch on BBC One and the iPad.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Welcome to the programme. 15 gold medals on offer today. Oh, it's exciting. The first one could go to Team GB, with Ben Mayer looking to defend his individual show jumping title from Tokyo 3 years ago on Dallas Bailey Battley. He's one of the 30 finalists attempting to clear 12 to 15 fences against the clock in reverse order from qualifying. So there's a lot to understand, and there's a lot of excitement, as you heard, and tension. Where Sonia McLaughlin is. Sonia's not the source of that, but Sonia's certainly feeling it. Chateau de Versailles, aren't you?
I am, because what we're seeing here is show jumping as hard as it gets. This course is big. Now, you would expect that, but it's as big as it could possibly be. And these fences, in terms of height-wise, are big. In terms of the spread, the stretch the horses are being asked to jump are big. We've got water jumps. We've got big old oxers. Those are the ones I told you. Those two.
What is an oxer?
An oxer are two parallel fences, so next to each other, which then at the same height, which form a spread.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So they're wide apart.
They're wide apart. Exactly, and that just is a test of the horse's reach. And actually, the oxer that Ben Mayer and Scott Brash have both had down, they both left the last pole of the second part of the oxer, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
We've got we've got two doubles and a treble on this course. We've got a huge water jump they have to stretch over. And then we have it's also, this round is also against the clock, so they've got to keep an eye on the time, because if you're outside the time, then there are time penalties that will come into your overall score. Obviously, the lower your overall score, the better chance you have of being amongst the medals. This is show jumping's Everest. I can't put it any way better than that.
Shall we hear from Tina Kirk, who won
Yes,
Team
let's.
Eventing Silver at London 2012? Tina, morning to you.
Hi.
Now, look, Sonia's described this big arena.
Yeah.
Like, tell me what it feels like when you see an arena. I mean, I don't know if this is bigger than London 2012. You tell us. But what it feels like. Does it charge you? Does it make you nervous? All sorts, I imagine.
Oh goodness, every emotion possible. But your partner, as in the horse, you've got to ride it like it's a normal show. I know that sounds weird, because full well you're at the Olympic Games. The horse doesn't. But you've got to ride in there. You see the riders coming into the arena trying to look relaxed, and you watching as a spectator going, God, are they really going to pull themselves together? But you don't want to go in there showing any tension to your horse, because they have to be able to propel themselves over these fences. And the fences are on very flat little cups, so the slightest of touch will mean that they will come down.
So they're in like little, they're just resting.
They are resting
on these semicircles.
In a semicircle, but then where they have a plank, so like a bit of fencing as such. It's on a flat cup, so that literally the touch, they can't breathe on them. So the horses have to really sit on their hind legs and propel themselves up, and they can't touch these poles. And also, I can say that the horses don't go and walk the course. I know that sounds sort of patronising, but they don't go in there. So they see these different fillers and water trays and different designs on the fences. It's the riders that are saying, putting pressure on, saying, right, that is a spread. You've got to go forward and jump the back rail. And our British riders, as Sonia was saying, caught the back rail of that because it was so wide. It's like over 6 foot wide.
Tina,
you can imagine jumping a human, that it's that much we expect from the horses. But you know what, at the end of it, the top class horses are the ones we're watching, and they love it.
Tina, I know Sonia's going to come
Naga,
in with
can I just say something?
Yes,
I walked the course a little bit earlier, which is a great privilege, and then it's a real wow factor when you're standing right up.
It is a privilege because they don't let you in all the bits, do they?
No, they don't. They let the media in to walk the course because obviously it does help with the commentators to get a sense of the strides between the fences and just how enormous they actually are. And I was walking it with Andy Austin, a British show jumper, and he stood in the middle of fence 8, which is one of these big oxes, and he could barely touch each pole. So if you imagine that
he couldn't reach up to it.
He couldn't. So imagine he's got his arms spread. He could almost touch
the spread.
The spread. So he stood inside the fence and he could barely touch either pole with his arms outstretched wide. That's how the average wingspan of a man is what these horses are being asked to stretch over. And at the minute in the arena, we'll get a sense of really how absolutely difficult this course is, because we have the world number 1 from Sweden in on a horse called King Edward. This horse is viewed as the best horse in the world as it springs out over the water jump. Oh my goodness me, he just crawled over fence 7. And this horse has got so much scope. Oh my goodness, oh my God, Naga, I have never seen anything like it.
So the rider's just come off.
This isn't just any old rider. You've just got to check that this horse is okay, because it's... his bridle has come off. My goodness me. He looked very unsettled over the water jump, went to 7, the next jump, almost took that too fast, and then was going too fast to 8. The horse just got lost. He didn't know where he was going. He was supposed to turn right around fence 1. Instead, he carried on straight. Looked like he was going to go into the crowd.
So two things.
He literally almost hit the marker that where the timing mechanism is for fence 1. The horse slammed on the anchors. Poor old Henrik von Eckermann slid off and fell in sort of slightly unceremoniously into the sand, and the horse's bridle came off in that whole motion.
I'm going to get you to explain a few things, Sonia.
Yeah, ask Tina, because...
Okay, Tina, just first of all, the bridle, what is that?
So the bridle and varying bits that the horses have in their mouth. So when the horse, he wanted him to turn right, and then the horse didn't turn right immediately, and then he went into some sort of decoration to the side, so obviously then stopped. And as Henrik came off, he slipped over the horse's head and pulled the bridle off. Look, he was on his way off anyway. The fact that the bridle came off is neither here nor there. But you know what? The general person watching or listening to this programme goes, you know what, even the best in the world can be unceremoniously deposited on the floor, and nobody was hurt. It was just one of those things, but it just shows that anything can happen at this level of competition.
And Tina, when you fall as a rider, because it happens obviously, is there a way to gently fall, fall so that you don't get hurt, avoid the actual horse, because they're a huge beast, beautiful beast, but huge.
Well, sometimes, it is a little more uncomfortable and you do break bones. So most riders have hurt themselves fairly seriously at some point in their career. But that was a very gentle fall, because he did literally just slip off the horse, put its head down at it as it spooked it at the filler on the side and came off. So definitely no horse or rider were hurt in that situation.
And this goes
I wish, Naga, I had learnt how to fall, because I currently have a plate and screws in my right wrist. As horse went left, I went right, and I fell off, and the full force of my body went through my right wrist.
Do you know
because you instinctively put your arm out to stop yourself. Now, actually,
that's like when you're running, isn't it?
I wish I'd learnt earlier in my equestrian, I won't call it a career because it's not, it's a hobby. to actually somehow, I don't know, like a stunt woman, sort of tuck and roll. Because
one of my proudest moments when I was riding, and I only did it for a few years, and it was a hobby, and honestly, Sonia, you would have laughed at me if you'd seen me, but I tried anyway. I was jumping and doing a bit of dressage, and my parents came to watch because they thought it was so bizarre I was doing this, and I went over the head of the horse. He was just being a stubborn so-and-so, and I managed to yank myself back into the saddle, and I was ever so proud of that. And we ended up having a little tussle, the horse and I, a battle of wills, and to get our relationship back on track.
Tina will know that, these riders at this level, and Tina, Olympic silver medalist, was one of the very, very, very best. Tina, you have naturally a very good balance, a seat, they call it, when you're positioned in the saddle. And often when the horse does spook, riders instinctively can stay there because they're just so used to that slight motion from the horse. But sometimes it's just game over, right?
Well, as we just saw there at an Olympic Games. Look, you train many, many years, obviously, to being here and your horse, but a horse's reactions can be very quick, especially the horses at this level. You want them to be sharp.
We potentially if this rider goes clear, and they does, there is no bronze medal for the British riders because Steve Gerdat of Switzerland has just gone clear, which means we will have a 3-man jump off for gold in the individual show jumping, and it means that Scott Brash and Ben Mayer leave the individual final with no medal, but having won the team gold, that's what they said they came for. And that was mission accomplished in that sense.
This is interesting. Tina, how do you think this Swiss rider, who's obviously gone clear, as Sonia said, would have felt after seeing what happened with the Swedish number one?
Oh, no, he wouldn't even have noticed, wouldn't even come into the equation, other than, OK, that gives me a bit more of a chance.
Of course, the competitive edge comes in, of course.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Well, rightly so. I've just got one text. Can I have a quick answer from him? Because I love it when our listeners text in. Ryan in Brighton says, and anyone jump in, just a brief answer. Hi, loving the Olympic coverage. Kudos to you too. I have a question about equestrian events. Team eventing's made up of 3 disciplines, dressage, show jumping and cross country. The first 2 also have their own individual events, but cross country doesn't. Why?
There's a very good question that has been asked on many occasions. On the eventing, it's the all-round athlete, and so that is why eventing is as it is. But cross country, there is the aspect. We don't really have just cross country, and we're looking at the best in the world from the show jumping. They're riding different types of horses that purely just show jump. So the eventing show jump isn't as big as what is on today. They're jumping sort of a metre 30. These guys are jumping a metre 60, a metre 65. So it's very, very specific.
Right. Okay.
And also be asking a horse a lot to do the cross country course twice.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a grueling course.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to you both after the news. I feel like all in a dither after just like what's happened just before 10 o'clock and then what happened with the number one. I think I'm going to take some time, recess, and then we'll come and find out actually who wins this thing. Yeah. Sonia, Tina, thanks so much. It's 18 minutes past 10. Okay, so as well as all that excitement there with the horses, we've got the athletics where we're still, I don't know, celebrating, jumping for joy. I watched it last night. GB's Keely Hodgkinson winning gold in the women's 800 metres. Now, Commonwealth silver medalist Alison Kirbishley was commentating on the race for 5 Live. Alison, I admit I was watching, so I didn't hear you. How is your voice today?
It's hanging in, Naga. It's hanging in. I mean, the stadium was rocking last night. I mean, we had Keely and we didn't have time to even reflect on that before we moved straight into Mondo Duplantis in the pole vault. It's everything that track and field is about was just, packaged up in that half an hour at the end of the evening session last night. And I kind of woke up this morning and just got my notes back just to double check that Keely definitely did win, because I didn't, and it wasn't a dream. It really was truly special last night.
Do you know what? I was watching and I must say, because we've had quite a few tense moments, haven't we, so far over the 10, 11 days. We're on day 11 now. I felt, dare I say it, quite comfortable watching Keely. But you know what? Let's hear what she thought all about it. And Alison, we can reflect in a moment. Keely was speaking to Rachel and Rick earlier on 5 Live Breakfast.
It was absolutely incredible. It's everything I could have hoped for. It felt amazing, the crowd there, the support I had my family. I just remember thinking nothing's guaranteed until you've crossed that line in first place, and after so many silvers over the last couple of years on a global championships, I'm just super happy to have upgraded myself to a gold, like I've been saying, so it's all nice when it comes together.
And it came together beautifully last night, and we've been talking this morning about the fact that although you were the favourite, the way you managed that expectation going into it and carried it on your shoulders and seemed unfazed by it was amazing. And you talk about your family. The thing that really got me, I think, was when you went to cuddle your mum and dad first around the track, but then your siblings, because you've got two sisters and a brother?
Yeah, I've got quite a big family.
Yeah. And I loved that. They were all there to see you. Was that the most precious moment for you, being able to get up and hug the people that have supported you, I guess, all the way through this?
100%. The family is everything to me. Like, even the siblings, my siblings have sacrificed, sometimes my parents over the years come to take me up and down training, and they've had to suffer the consequence of that, so to have them there supporting me. And it's rare that we're all together. I don't live with them at home anymore, and it's just nice to have that moment with them and the people that have literally seen me from birth do this.
There's a lovely sequence of photos of you as you're approaching the finish line, Keely, and the kind of, you're just like excited, and then you have the dawning realisation, and the emotion hits you. Can you remember what that felt like?
Yeah, I think Seb Coe said it best. Like, once you cross that line, I think the first thing you actually feel is relief. Just, like you say, there was so much pressure, and I've never had that much to contend with before. I've been, a contender for a gold medal, but yeah, to have it, people, writing me down as the gold medal favourite is such a privileged position to be in, but also kind of scary, and it is a lot to deal with. So I was just super happy that I've got such a great team around me to help me deal with that. And there was just a mixture of joy, excitement, relief, stress. It's all been over now, but it was amazing.
Could you feel the crowd as you were running? Because there were so many British fans in there.
Yeah, it's rare that I actually hear them on the way around, which sounds crazy, because you're just so focused and in the zone. But I remember coming down that home straight and it just being lifted up by it. It was incredible. To be in Paris, it honestly felt like it was a home crowd. Like, there was so many British people there, and it's just so nice that they got behind that and got behind track and field.
And I guess you want to give a lot of credit to your coaches. You've got Trevor Painter, you've got Jenny Meadows. I mean, they must be just ecstatic.
Oh, they have so much self-belief in me, and we've created something really special over the last couple of years. We've worked so hard for this, so to see it all come together, it doesn't always. That's the thing with track and field, that you can do everything, and sometimes it's just not enough. So thankfully it was enough, and they deserve this just as much as I do. It's a we moment, like we did this, and yeah, I'm just super happy to have them people in my life.
Keely, I was listening to Victoria Pendleton talk yesterday, and she says the one regret about her Olympics experience was not really taking in and relishing those moments of victory and fully embracing it. I imagine it's hard. Everyone who comes on and wins a medal says it's really surreal, but is there any way that you're going to make sure that you absolutely lap this up?
Yeah, I think for me it'll be, later on in the day when I really just have a moment for myself. I feel like I've not had time to think on my own yet, and I think that's when I'll rewatch the race back and really take it in, because like you say, I don't want to not take this in. It's a really special moment, and hopefully it happens again, but it might not. Nothing is guaranteed in this life, so yeah, I'd really just want to enjoy this one.
And do you feel you're ready now for what this is going to do to you, the way it's going to elevate you in the public's mind? You'll be known everywhere. The expectations will heighten around you for every athletics competition now. Is that something that you look at with some trepidation?
You're trying to freak Keely out.
No. Or do you embrace it? Because I know that you've worked with a psychologist over the last couple of years, haven't you, to get your mind in a position to deal with this stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm better equipped for now. I'm a little bit older. I have a lot of experience under my belt now, but I think, for me, I look at it as every championship is a new slate. I just love the idea of bringing up track and field to the public, and if that's the way to do it and the pressure is what comes with it, then that's just part of the job. But I just look forward to the moments like that is what make it all worth it, and you just look forward to that, and that's what keeps you going.
Do you get to have a party at some point?
I hope so. I'm going to go join my family. I've not been on a family holiday since 2019, so they've gone over to Marbella today, so I'm going to go join them in a few days.
Nice.
Lovely.
Yeah.
What's your cocktail of choice in Marbella, Keely?
Oh, cocktail. I'm actually more of a rosé wine girl,
Fair
believe
enough.
it or not. So, yeah, I'll be on the beach at some point having a nice glass of rosé wine.
Oh,
Can
so
you
pleased to hear
promise that you'll be wearing the medal on the beach, please, and you get like a medal tan mark?
100%. I'll snap a picture.
Brilliant.
Congratulations again. We absolutely
We do
loved
love
it.
you.
So,
We love
so,
you.
so
Oh,
chuffed
thank
for
you
you,
so
Keely.
much. Oh, thank you.
I love her too. Keely Hodgkinson talking to Rachel and Rick earlier. Alison Kirbishley. I mean, you can't help but like her, can you?
You can't, because she's just so normal, isn't she,
Yes.
Naga? You know, we can actually relate to her because she's doing something that many of us dreamt of and very few get to do.
And she works hard.
You know, she works very hard. You know, she's been able to achieve her goal in the most perfectly controlled race last night. Under
That's
the
why I
most
said I didn't feel
intense-
nervous. Was I wrong?
Yeah, and I
to
think.
not?
Well, I think we were trying to not make people nervous by telling everybody how much she had this in her locker. You know, she had everything that was needed that could be thrown at her to topple her. She had the tools to be able to combat that last night. There was no one. I went down that whole field. I was like, right, what could she do to beat Keely Hodgkin? What could she do? You know, and she had a quality field. You know, the reigning world champion was in there. Mary Morris beaten her on so many occasions to win a Commonwealth Games title, to win a world title. So she had to take on the amount of pressure, but know that everyone was looking at her to orchestrate and control that race, and she did it so well.
Oh, well, you know what? We love her. She's brilliant. Laura Muir, now Tokyo silver medalist, was in the heats for the women's 1500 meters. Let's go up a bit in distance. How's she looking?
Yeah, Laura's at the other end of her career. You know, this is Laura's third Olympics now, and she's been there, she's done it, and she's got the medal. Not quite the colour she wants, so she's looking to upgrade her silver this time around. But the quality of the field that she's up against is huge. But she came out and she really set her stall out this morning. The quickest time I think I've ever seen in a heat of a 1500 metres was won by Gudaf Sagai, who was running angry. She came off the 5,000 metres last night, missing out on a medal, finishing down in 9th. Was very much expected to take the title last night. And Laura Muir just sat on her shoulder and enjoyed qualification. 3:58.91. I mean, a world-class time just in the first round. But yeah, I think her interview off the back was very, very measured.
Should we hear it?
And I think the difficulty at this point in the athletics, Naga, is it's later in the week. People have started winning medals and you're just chomping at the bit to get going.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I got from Laura Muir this morning.
Wise tactics, I think. You said the interview. She spoke to the BBC's Sarah Mulkerrins. Let's hear it.
Well, Laura, what did you want to see from yourself in this opening heat?
I think I can still run. I think when you've tapered and you've been sitting around and waiting, you're like, oh, I hope I feel okay, and yeah, I felt fine, so it was good. Yeah.
And what about how the race played out with kind of 200 or 2.5 laps to go?
Yeah.
You just kind of pushed towards that possible breakaway.
Yeah, I could see 4, and I was like, 4 is too many. So yeah, I just got on the back of that, slowly worked my way up, keeping an eye on the screen the whole time. There was quite a few of us there at the end, so it's like, you know what, I'm just going to stay at the front, out of the trouble. Yeah, job done. Yeah.
And what about this event and the progress in recent years, Laura? It's been phenomenal, hasn't it?
It's a bit insane, yeah. I was kind of thinking the other day, it's like, it's not like it's come on like 1 or 2 steps, it's more like it's come on a flight of stairs. It's actually insane, but I'm part of that as well though, which is really exciting. So yeah, roll in the semi-finals and hopefully fingers crossed the final, but just got semi-finals to work towards now, yeah.
Best of luck in it.
Thanks very much, thank you.
Oh, I mean, yeah, she wise. There was Team GB's Georgia Bell as well, who's also through to the semis, the 1500 semi. She trains with Keely Hodgkinson, doesn't she, Alison?
Yeah, and she's got a great story, Naga. And funny enough, she was born in Paris, so she feels it's gone full circle. And she should be. I think her dad was in the media. He actually worked in radio, and she came over, was born here, but obviously grew up in the UK. But Georgia left our sport she sort of decided to almost take early retirement back in 2017. She was a very, very good schoolgirl and never really progressed into sort of British junior level. And then came back to her coach, Trevor Painter, and what has he done with her this year, training with Keely Hodgkinson. And we keep calling it the comeback, but that comeback year just keeps giving. And she's now made the semi-final of the Olympic Games and is a real threat for a place in the final, and actually beat Laura Muir to win the British title this year. Is just absolutely loving every experience that she's getting, and why wouldn't you? And she said she struggled to sleep last night because she was just thinking about her heat this morning, but then her training partner went and did what she did last night, and it just set Georgia Bell off. So really excited for what's to come with those girls.
And just to keep an eye on another Team GB, Reevie Walcott-Nolan finished 8th in her race, so she'll have a second chance in tomorrow's repechage. Can we talk about some argy-bargy, Alison? I don't know how argy-bargy you were when you ran, if you needed to be, but I'm talking about Kenya's Faith Kipyegon. How do I say it?
Kipyegon, yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, she was disqualified in the 5,000 metres final last night, and I did see it, and I saw a bit of discussion about it, but she's been reinstated. I don't know what this means in terms of medals.
Yeah, so she Kipyegon is one of the GOATs, absolute greatest of all time in middle and long distance. She's doing a tough double here in the 5,000 and 1,500 metres. World record holder, was the world record holder in the 5,000, but that's been usurped by Gudaf Segai, who she had the tussle with, the argy-bargy, as you mentioned.
Sorry, technical
Ethiopian. Term. Well, no, it pretty much was last night. We see it a lot in the distance. I mean, my event, I was in the 400 metres. We were all in our lanes. If you touched anyone, you'd gone out your lane, you absolutely would be disqualified. But in the middle and long distance, we do see it a lot, particularly in slow races, when people are just trying to find a racing room. You've got these long strides. You know, when people are in full flight, a long stride could be anything between 1.5 metres and 2 metres, and of course you've got 12 athletes all trying to hug that inside line, the inside line which gives you the best racing line. And with 2 laps to go, 800 metres left of a 5,000 metre race, the kind of pace had started to pick up, and between Gudaf Segai and Faith Kipyegon, it was a bit of both, I thought. You know, Segai's left arm came right in front of Faith Kipyegon, and Faith kind of probably did the wrong thing in grabbing her arm and sort of almost pushing her back. And I think quite rightly the Ethiopians put in a protest. Segai, I actually mentioned, she was the one who won Laura Muir's heat in the 15 this morning. She finished well out of the medals, down in 9th, I think very much knocked out of her rhythm with that tussle that she had with Faith. And Faith did eventually end up finishing in the silver medal position behind her countryman Beatrice Chebet, with Sifan Hassan taking the bronze. And within about 10-15 minutes we saw the protest go in, and Faith was disqualified, so the Italian actually Battacletti was moved up to bronze medal, and Sifan Hassan got the silver. And then obviously the Kenyans put in a counter protest, and then we pretty much about an hour and a half later we saw the medals were reinstated. So Faith was lining up this morning knowing that she's the Olympic medal, and yeah, I think it warms us up for the final, put it that way, because we're going to see a round 2, ding ding, because Faith Kipyegon will be going again with Gudaf Segai, I'm sure, in the final of the 15.
Grudge race. Alison, we will talk soon and look ahead, as well as go through the repechages as well for the 400 metres. Love talking to you, Alison. I'll speak to you in a short while.
Thanks so much.
See ya. It's 10:34. We've got the show jumping offs coming up in just a minute, but we will listen to the news first because we need to be updated, and Dina Campbell's going to do that for us. Hi, Dina.
Hi, Naga. Thank you. The Justice Minister, Heidi Alexander, says over 500 additional prison places are being made available for people given custodial sentences for rioting. She's also warned there'll be consequences for those inciting disorder online. There was further unrest overnight in Belfast, Darlington and Plymouth. The water regulator Ofwat has proposed large fines for 3 water companies. Thames, Yorkshire and Northumbrian Water are facing penalties totalling £168 million over historic sewage spills. A judge in the US has ruled Google acted illegally to maintain a monopoly over online searches. The company was found to have paid millions to other tech firms to be set as the default search engine on their products. Eluned Morgan is set to be voted in as the new First Minister of Wales today. She'll become the first woman to take on the role, replacing Vaughan Gething, who resigned a few months into the job.
On BBC iPlayer.
I'm Paddy the Baddy Pimler.
I'm Meatball Molly McCann.
We're 2 mates from Liverpool, currently fighting in the UFC.
Real fighters.
You don't really get a much more brutal sport than MMA.
And their real lives.
My life's not all about just training and fighting. I think I'm an entrepreneur. How'd you say that?
Paddy and Molly show no mercy.
The next 6 months are going to be the biggest fights of our lives, and that's a fact.
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Paris 2024, the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
It is 10:35. Right, so we are waiting for the show jumping individual final jump off for gold. I don't even know if that's the right way of me to say it. Sonia McLaughlin
Exactly will correct
me.
Way. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Slam dunk, Naga. Well,
yay, I got one. Okay, so I remember just a short while ago, we were talking about jump-offs for bronze, but now since there are so many higher scores, it's all for gold.
Well, basically, because as soon as we knew we were going to have 3 riders clear, that meant there was no chance of either Scott Brash or Ben Mayer, who were sitting on 4 faults, of getting a medal, because basically the top 3 here now will end up with gold, silver and bronze. And the 3 involved: Steve Gerdat from Switzerland, Mikael van der Vleuten from the Netherlands and Christian Kukok from Germany. They are the 3 who are going to go for gold over this shortened course. And what we've got at the minute, Naga, is the crowds have just kind of taken a breather because the tension was extreme, particularly as the last horse to go here was a Frenchman, Julien Epildard from France, riding Dubai de Cedra. And if he had gone clear, he would have obviously got into this jump off, and he had 1 down, to a massive sigh from the collective 15,000 here. So that was a shame we don't have a Frenchman into the final. But now we have this hive of activity in the arena. There's lots of tractors pulling the large, what are they called? They're
Rakes?
Rolling the sand. Sorry, they're just kind of raking these rakes on the back of the track. It's day 10. My brain is fried.
Just smoothing it all out and making it pretty again.
Thank you. Yes,
and
they
fair
are.
for everyone again.
Thank you. So we have this hive of activity. My brain is fried, Naga. Honestly, it's day 10.
But do you know what? You've got so much in it, and you get no. I don't mean that in a bad. It's a complete compliment. I love it because I just learn and learn and learn.
And so some of the flowers and the plants, the decorations that are just being moved around. Honestly, it's like a team of worker ants at the minute in this stadium, and they are reducing it, and they are reducing the course because it was 15 jumps, 19 efforts from the horses. We're now down to, this is like a sprint. Okay, we're down to 7 fences only, 8 efforts, and basically go. It's the fastest horse wins gold.
Okay.
Clear. The fastest clear. The fastest. Well, maybe they each have 1 down, but it's the fastest who has the lowest penalty count. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. Tina Cook, who won team eventing silver at London 2012, is also with us. Tina, have you ever been, and it doesn't have to be in the Olympics, in a jump off?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so set the scene. They've got this 15-minute break, right?
Yes.
What are they doing with their horses, with their team? How are the riders composing themselves? What are they doing to make sure the horses are relaxed yet alert?
Yes, exactly. So they've done quite a lot of jumping now over the last week. And so depending on whether you went and jumped your horse an hour ago or whether you were just more recently. Most of these guys actually jumped a bit early. The horses would have gone back to the stables, had a drink, keep them hydrated. Some horses drink better than others, a bit like humans. So you want to make sure that they're hydrated because they've got to go in the ring. And as Sonia said, they've got to be going fast. And then you work out what your preparation is. They won't want to jump that much in the collecting ring. So there's a ring before coming into the stadium where there will be 2-3 jumps that you can practice over, whether you want to jump a metre or whether you want to jump 6 metres. Each rider has to assess their horse, what it needs to get it coming into the ring and feeling like it wants to go and jump those big fences again. But all the clearing now is taking away the fences that are not being jumped, so the arena will look quite empty. And the riders won't get a chance. They will get a chance to have a quick look at the course, but it'll only be a quick look. But it'll look quite empty now. And it's being rolled so that the surface is even everywhere. Because as you can imagine, the takeoffs and landings over these fences, where the sand, it's a sort of soft silica sand, can get a bit disrupted. So that's why the tractors are all in there now, levelling it, so it's even playing field for everybody.
Okay,
Well, the three that are going in, to be honest, so 3 competitors.
I think it's going to be another moment of tension. I can't wait.
Yeah, we had, in Tokyo, Naga, we had a 6 horse and rider jump off, of which Ben Mayer ultimately, in the most thrilling fashion, won gold. And the margin of victory in that instance between him and Peder Fredriksson of Sweden in silver was 1.3 seconds.
Oh, okay. Well, look, we can only hope for something dramatic.
So this has the potential to be thrilling.
That's good. All right, then. I'm coming back to both of you for the thrills and hopefully no spills.
Not spills, yeah.
Exactly. Sonia, you and I, we're just connecting. It's great. Yeah. All right, I will be back with you because I want to go to Alison Kirbishley because we've just had a 400 metres women's repechage. Alison, how you doing?
I'm very good now that I've got good news to bring you.
I know. Bring me some good news.
The repechage, this is the first time we've seen it. We've heard it used in so many other sports.
The rerun,
obviously rowing.
The second chance.
Yeah, it basically is. It's your second chance, and we've seen it work for the Brits this morning. Victoria Ohurugu, sister of Christina Ohurugu, the British record holder and former Olympic champion back in Beijing, has just absolutely smashed Heat 3 of the repechage, winning in 50.59 from outside lane 9. Looked great. Looked really, really good. Much better than her first round.
Because she didn't do so well then, did she, obviously? So this is why she came back in. And she looked immensely disappointed, actually.
She did, and I think she's had time to just reflect on that and just focus on this next round, as you said, a second chance. And that means 3 Brits into the semi-final.
Yeah, brilliant. That's going to be amazing, isn't it? When is that?
Tomorrow evening, semi-final. There'll be 3 semi-finals, so it'll be probably top 2 and 2 fastest. I mean, it's absolutely stacked. But we've got our 6th fastest in the world this year in Amber Anning. Lavia Nielsen running the absolute times of her life. And now you've got the 3rd Brit in, Victoria Ohurugu. And it bodes well for the 4x4 at the end of the championships.
Do you know what she did?
Time-wise?
No. She rethought in strategy. She rethought her 6 phases.
She absolutely rethought everything.
Anyone who wasn't listening yesterday, 6 phases to 400 metres. Alison explained them yesterday. You can listen back on BBC Sounds and she will give you the minute detail of all the phases as you see. I learned. I was telling my friends yesterday evening. You know what? Tonight, can we look ahead tonight? We've got Josh Kerr in action at the men's 1500 metres. He wants to add gold, doesn't he, to his tally?
He does. He wants to add gold to his world title that he took last year, but there's one man in the defending champion, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, who doesn't want to have a rerun of what happened at the World Championships in Budapest last year. And there's it's a real clash of the titans, Naga. We usually see this in the sprints, that kind of trash talk, but it's happening in the men's 1500, and we're living in an era that everybody back in the 80s, you were either in the Coe camp or the Ovett camp. Well, right now it's the new age. You're either a Kerr fan or an Ingebrigtsen fan, and it's just got the whole world talking, and we cannot wait for this evening.
Do you think they're as hostile with each other as Coe and Ovett were?
Do you think they're
hostile with each other?
Oh, they are absolutely.
Oh, okay.
You just need to read the quotes. So I think they both ran against each other in the semi-final, and Ingebrigtsen was asked by Norwegian television as he came off the track what he thought of Josh Kerr there, and he said, "Was he in it? I didn't see him." And you're just like, oh, this is brilliant. It couldn't get any better. But yeah, it's gone on for about a good 12, 18 months with those two now. They really do not like each other, and it just makes for great coverage, great media.
Do you know,
but they're respectful, but they just, they don't like each other, and they're quite open about it. Yeah,
we're allowed
absolutely.
to not like people. If we all liked everyone, the world would be a boring place, wouldn't it? Be a much nicer place, maybe, but a boring place. It's interesting. I think it was Steve Cram who was talking about a story about getting into a lift with Seb Coe and Steve Ovett. I'll have to remember the story. It was quite funny. Did you hear it?
Yeah, no, I can recount it. It was basically, this was 1980. And it was the Olympic final when it was all about they basically won each other's event. They won the wrong event, if you like. So Ovett won the 8 and Coe won the 15. But the 15 final, Coe got in the lift with his coach. Ovett got in the lift with his coach, and Steve was this young 19-year-old, absolutely lapping it all up, and had also made the final. And had to sit there watch these kind of two athletes, and he compares it to like the Waltons, where everyone says "Night John boy, night John." So they got in, and Seb's dad, Peter Coe, his coach, was saying hi to Steve, hi to Steve's coach Harry, hi to Steve Cram, and they all said hello to each other except Seb and Ovett. They did not say hi to each other.
Oops.
And I think that was it, and in a very different way, we saw young Phoebe Gill, and she put a post out last night saying, well done to Keely Hodgkinson. She's 17 years old, this athlete, and she made the women's 800 team here. And she commented about, I couldn't have better inspiration, I couldn't have a better teacher, and in the same way that Steve Cram followed Coe and Ovett and learnt from them at the highest level, that's what Phoebe Gill's doing here. And you just the experiences, I really hope that she's writing it all down, because that will make for some what did you do over the 6 weeks holiday when she goes back to school, won't it?
Oh gosh, good story.
I was a
isn't it?
teammate of Keely Hodgkinson's.
She won't have to make anything up. Can I have a quick word with you, just looking ahead to the women's 200 metres finals, because we've got two Brits in there.
We have, and we haven't seen that for an awful long time, and two Brits who both thinking of getting onto the podium. It's and for two very different reasons. We've got Dina Asher-Smith coming off the disappointment of not making the final in the 100 metres and being very angry with herself, and Daryl Neita finishing agonisingly just outside the medals in 4th in that 100 metres. And as I said, the last time we had more than two or more in the Olympic final was back in 1980 with Kathy Smallwood and Bev Goddard and Sonia Lanneman. So two women who really truly believe they can get close, if not onto the podium. I mean, it's going to be tough. We've got the world leader in Gabby Thomas, we've got the Olympic champion in Julian Alfred there, but I do think that there's a medal to be snatched. And Dina Asher-Smith lining up in lane 4, Daryl in lane 5. It's going to be exciting, and that's our closer this evening at 20 to 10 our time, 20 to 9 UK time.
You've got a long day. I remember
got
saying
a long
this.
day.
I said this to Jonathan Overend in the early days. It was last week, because he'd been just as busy as you've been, and like running horse, hot honey and lemon and some ginger.
Yeah, I know.
I think it'll be and sleep. Yeah, rest the voice, get ready for the screaming and the excitement, and soothe the vocal cords. Brilliant, Alison. I'll be listening tonight. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take care. See you later. Okay, I'll come back to the Olympics, because we've got that jump off for gold in the show jumping in the equestrian in a short while, in just a few minutes. But I want to return to the latest news and keep you up to date, because that's what we do here on 5 Live. There was more unrest in parts of the UK last night. Police coming under attack in Belfast, Darlington, Plymouth. Several vehicles, a pub damaged in Birmingham. There's been violent disorder in towns and cities since last Tuesday. That was the day after 3 young girls were killed in Southport in a knife attack. Now, false claims on social media, had said that someone who had arrived in the UK illegally was to blame, and that kicked off a whole load of this, what we're seeing. Now, look, Lizzie Dearden is a security and home affairs journalist. Lizzie, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. OK, so we've had immediate reaction after that Cobra meeting yesterday from the Prime Minister. A standing force, is that what I'm hearing? A standing guard?
We haven't actually got full details of what that means yet, but what we think, and hopefully there will be more details later, is that this will be a modification of a system known as mutual aid. And that system has been in place for many years. And what it means is areas that are experiencing big demand on public order policing, so that could be protests or football matches or, unfortunately, riots, they have the power to request extra officers from forces in other parts of the country. So, for instance, I was in Southport last week and the police vans driving around, you could see that they were from parts of Wales, other parts of Northern England. They'd done the same thing. So at the moment, because there is so much demand with all of these events happening in different places, they're looking at a slightly different model of how to make sure that there are enough trained officers who can deal with violent protests and get into the right place at the right time.
So, look, that's the model in terms of supply, resources. What's also being brought into question, as you said, that not entirely clear what this standing guard means. What else is being brought into question is the treatment of those who are protesting. And I'm saying protesting and I'm doing that inverted commas sign. The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, apologised last night. He knocked the microphone out of the hand of a Sky News reporter who had said, are you going to end two-tier policing? And to explain two-tier policing, this is where it's thought that right-wing protests are considered to be dealt with more harshly than left-wing protests. So Mark has apologised for that, saying, in an effort to move the microphone out of my path, I'm sorry I knocked it to the floor. That was never my intention. We remain focused on the critical and urgent matters at hand. However, the issue of two-tier policing is still out there, and the Justice Minister, Heidi Alexander, has been talking on BBC Breakfast this morning.
I don't accept the idea that there is a two-tier policing system in this country. I think it's a completely baseless assertion and I'm not going to entertain it. The police in this country exercise their powers without fear or favour, and I think this accusation does a huge disservice to the thousands of policemen and women who go out to do their jobs every day to uphold the rule of law and who go into work in order to treat everyone fairly.
It's another phrase, isn't it, that's fueling the fire, Lizzie?
It is. And to be clear, this is specifically a kind of far-right narrative that dates back at least 5 years. I was doing some checks before coming on and I found the first mention of it in far-right circles on the encrypted Telegram app back in 2019. And since then, it's come to mean different things. In COVID, for instance, anti-vax groups who were arrested for protesting in violation of COVID regulations used it as an allegation. But most commonly, it's used as an allegation that either left-wing protesters are policed more lightly than right-wing protesters, or now explicitly and racially that white people are policed more severely than black and brown people. And that's just part of a much, much wider narrative that extremist groups have been trying to build for many years, which alleges that white people are disadvantaged, that they are oppressed by the state, and that there is some level of conspiracy to disadvantage or even replace white people in this country. So I think we've all got to be careful when we hear phrases like that being thrown around, because they mean a lot more than they may seem to mean on the surface, and they have a much longer history than what's been happening this week.
Lizzie, thanks very much for taking us through that. That's Lizzie Dearden there, who's a security and home affairs journalist. Of course, we'll keep you up to date with events as they continue, seemingly to be happening here on 5 Live. It is 10:53. The show jumping individual final is reaching a conclusion at the Chateau de Versailles. 5 Live's Sonia McLaughlin is there. Sonia, tell us what's happening and what we are about to witness.
Well, what a picture this arena looks under the bright sunshine at the Palace of Versailles, because here in the next sort of 5 or 10 minutes, the gold medal in the individual show jumping will be decided. And we have 3 riders into the jump off for gold. Steve Gerdat from Switzerland, Mikael van der Vleuten from the Netherlands, and Christian Kukuk from Germany. Tina, where's your money going?
Oh, that's a difficult call. I did love this first horse in, this beautiful grey horse of Christian Kurdak from Germany. I thought it was really tried and really flicking its legs out the way to not touch those poles. So it'll be who wants it the most and can trust their horses to be careful at a full gallop.
Yeah, the German rider is clear over the first 2 fences. He comes towards the vertical, the third fence of 7 now only in this jump-off. He's taken a really tight turn to the 4th in the jump-off, but he's clear so far, a time of 21 seconds on the clock. The treble's become a double, and he's clear over both of them on this grey mare. And he swings round so tightly, the horse kicks its hooves out, but the fence stays up as he heads towards the Oxer. And he has posted a clear round. That's nailing down a challenge to the other 2. 38.34 for Christian Kudek of Germany. 38.34 then, the time to beat, because he has gone clear. You said you like that grey horse, Tina?
Yeah, I mean, it really tried for him. It's a really athletic type. He really went for it. Being the first one to go, you've got nothing to lose. You've got to go out there. And like Nick Skelton did out in Rio, he did it very, very similar. You've got to really put the pressure on the other 2. They know you've gone quick. And the turn back to those verticals where he turned in so tight and angled across the fences, saving time where he could. And he had utter belief in this beautiful horse that it was going to do and try for him, and it certainly did that. And you can see as it walks down the arena, it's looking at the crowds, looking all bright and sharp and still on its toes. He's got it fit, and that is a really important thing in this show jumping world. No, they're not going cross country, but these horses are jumping in this heat, and they want to be coming out and being absolutely on their A game, which this horse certainly was. So it'll be interesting now. The other 2 have really got to go for it if they want gold.
Worth bearing in mind, Christian Kudek from Germany has never won an Olympic medal, and he's come out here. He knows he's got a medal. The question is for these 3 riders, what colour are they going to end up with? This is now Mikael van der Vleuten from Germany. Got a team silver at London 2012.
He's from the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands, sorry, my mistake. And he got a team bronze last time, so he's never got a gold medal to his name. So there's so much at stake for these riders. This is the Dutchman. The time to beat, 38.34, but remember, he has to go clear. This is a 12-year-old bay mare he's riding, Beauville 2. He's 36 years of age. And his bright orange jacket, not surprisingly, given he is from the Netherlands, as he gets into a nice steady canter. Could hear a pin drop in this stadium as he approaches the first fence. Takes it at a slight angle because he wants to get tight to the second fence, which is this big oxer dressed like a French bistro, all red and white. He's clear, heading to the vertical at 3, 12.7 seconds on the clock. This is this really tight turn now to fence 4, this vertical. He's clear again as he heads towards what was the treble. It's now only a double. Huge oxer in. He smashed it. No, he's not going to be the Olympic champion, but he must keep going, because what happens if the next rider has 2 down? You know, he could still get a silver medal here. As he takes the last, he does go into second on a time of 39.12. The time really irrelevant there. This is all about the faults. So as it stands, we have Christian Kudek from Germany clear in 38.34. What do you make of that fault he had there, Tina?
He was going for it, and that's what competition is all about. And the horse was on his way down. It was speed. He was really travelling over the fence. But on that back rail, because of the spread, the over 6 foot spread, he was on his way down. So he had the front and the back rail down going into that double. But you had to go for it. All these guys are wanting gold. They know they've got a medal, but they want gold. So that's life, that's sport. The horse was fine. It tried its best, but just a bit too much speed over that fence.
As the man with his rake just smooths over the surface between both parts of that double. The first part that he had down there, worth stressing, it's a huge oxer, and I've talked about oxers a lot, I know that. 2 parallel fences that form an enormous spread, so the horses really have to reach out and up and over, but they've also got to, in a sense, think about what their back legs are doing as well, because he left the back pole there. And now we await Steve Gerdat from Switzerland. In a sense, Tina, I know you like the Grey Stallion that is currently in gold medal position, but Steve Gerdat, individual gold medalist in 2012. This man knows his way around a show jumping arena.
Yeah, all these guys, they compete against each other all around the world, week in, week out. So they're used to competing against each other. They would have huge respect for each other. But at the end of the day, it's who's got their horse absolutely in A1 condition to be coming back in the ring again, to be jumping these fences at speed. And you also, whatever anyone says, you need a bit of luck on your side.
He's just taken that horse up, Tina, to that first part of the one that Mikael van der Vleuten had down. He's just taken the horse up, and he's now cantering through it just to say, look, nothing to worry about here. As he heads gets himself into a good canter rhythm. That's third gear, if you imagine you're driving your car. First gear, second gear, he's into third gear, the canter, as he heads through the start on this 11-year-old bay mare, his scarlet jacket bright in the sunshine, a sharp right turn to come back over this huge oxer dressed like a French bistro, 38.34 seconds to beat, but he of course has to go clear to usurp Christian Kudek for the gold medal. Tight turn to the vertical. The horse is clear through the first 4 fences. Now it's this tricky double with the huge oxer at the first element. He's clear over both as he spins round. Another tight, oh my goodness, he's taking it so tight to this huge, and he's too tight. He's had the pole down as he heads over the last oxer. He took an enormous gamble there, did Steve Gerdat, and it did not pay off. He knew 38.34 was going to be a tight time as he comes home actually in 38.38. But the Olympic champion here, perhaps a bit surprisingly, is Christian Kudek from Germany, who wins not only his first ever Olympic medal, it's the big G for the man from Germany. And that also means that they finish as the leading nation here in equestrian sport at the Olympic Games, with Britain second on the medal table. Deserved gold medal. He rode that beautifully. He went for it, didn't he, Tina?
Yeah, absolutely. He put pressure on the other guys behind him, and Steve Gerdat took a really tight turn. I think probably when he made that turn, he thought, oh no, I'm going to be too close to this, and the horse just couldn't get over it without it coming down. So, hey, it's competition. He went for it, and it didn't pay off.
It's been an absolute thriller. I hope I get to talk to you guys again. But so we've got German gold, Swiss second.
Yeah, and we've
silver,
got just let me check the final order, Naga, because it's all too exciting. We know that Christian Kudek has won the gold medal for Germany, and we now have. Oh, look, I've got a helper here now, because Victoria Pendleton's been watching all of this, sitting alongside.
I bet she has.
She has lived every single moment. There's been all the kind of breathing in, out. Oh, gosh, there's one down. It's been brilliant, actually. And so, yeah, I'm just going to... She's giving me the advice. Look, Sonia, for goodness sake, look at the massive, great scoreboard that's just here in front of you. So, yeah, Christian Kudek of Germany takes the gold. Steve Gerdat, who went for it with that tight turn to the upright, but it didn't pay off. He finishes in silver medal position. And Michael van der Vleuten of the Netherlands in bronze.
Now, I should know this, and don't get upset with me if I didn't know this.
No, it's all right.
Was Team GB the favourites in terms of getting more medals? Because I thought that we sounded like, we're at the pinnacle of our game. I love the way I say we. But will Team GB be disappointed to come behind Germany?
I think Tina should answer that question.
Tina?
No, not at all.
Correct.
As we've shown that in the competition, that you need a bit of luck on your side, and to come home with team gold was a fantastic performance. Look, there's only 3 people. There's no drop score. There's 3 combinations in each team. So they did their job with their team gold. You go into this with 30 other riders for the individual medal. It's in for a penny, in for a pound. You're all up there. There are fabulous combinations because it's the Olympic Games. Obviously, you're going to have the very best. And our guys didn't disgrace themselves. No. They just touched one fence. So they finished in the end. Brash finished 6th and Ben Mayer finished 9th. But technically, really, they were all 8 riders on 4 faults. So they're all sort of equal 4th, really. So they were so close to be fighting for the medals. So it's competition, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I could just say that Naga, Great Britain in equestrian terms won 5 medals in Tokyo, and they have won 5 medals here. So they've equalled their Tokyo haul. They're second on the medal table behind Germany, and they will actually finish level on the number of medals with Germany, actually, but Germany have got more gold.
Well, I mean, it is massively impressive. I just didn't know if we were kind of considered the creme de la creme in the equestrian world.
No, I think also Tina will kind of concur with this. We have the 3 disciplines. Britain are strong across all of the 3 disciplines, and in fact, until today, Great Britain had riders on every single podium ceremony at the equestrian sport. Now that is hugely impressive. But obviously, I think the slight difference is that the Germans are exceptional when it comes to individual dressage. And that has just sort of tipped them to the top of the charts, effectively.
Tina, final word?
Well, the eventing would have been, we went there red-hot favourites for the eventing, as we very much had, we could have fielded 2 teams that could have probably gone for the team gold medal, and the British selectors had to just choose the 3 for the eventing team. So we came home with team gold in the eventing, and the same with dressage. Show jumping, we had to fight for it, and that's where it was such a good result to win the team gold for the show jumping. So I think we've excelled in all 3 disciplines in the equestrianism.
Then I will be whooping once we're into the news and cheering. Sonia, thank you so much. Sonia McLaughlin there, Tina Cook, of course, who is won team eventing silver at London 2012. We've done all right, Team GB. We've done all right. But the Germans German team taking gold in the latest show jumping. Okay. 7 minutes past 11 is the time. Joel Mitchell will have the news for you.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thanks, Naga. Good morning. The Chief Inspector of Prisons, Charlie Taylor, is warning that jail capacity is really tight. It's after the government announced plans to create 500 extra prison places from next week to help detain those arrested in riots across England and Northern Ireland. Mr. Taylor says the situation is concerning.
If, as a result of the riots, the population does go up, that puts more pressure on the prison service. The bath is right at the limit. It's about to overflow. There is the early release scheme, which will happen in September, and the first tranche of prisoners will be let out then. The Inspectorate will be keeping a close eye on who's being let out, whether that process is being handled efficiently, and whether the public are being kept safe.
Last night there was further unrest in Darlington, Birmingham and Plymouth. A man in his 50s has been taken to hospital following a serious assault during disorder in Belfast. Police said they're treating the incident as a racially motivated hate crime. And South Yorkshire Police say 6 individuals have been charged after disturbances outside a hotel near Rotherham on Sunday. They're all due to appear at Sheffield Magistrates Court today. Some other news, the water regulator Ofwat has announced huge fines for 3 water companies, Thames Water, Yorkshire Water and Northumbrian Water. The penalties worth £168 million in total for historic sewage spills. Mark Wiltshire is from Ofwat.
it was important that we looked at this issue really carefully. We really lifted the bonnet and looked to see what was going on. And what we uncovered hasn't made for particularly good reading, hence the size of the penalties today. So what is really important is that companies act quickly, bring themselves back up to the required standard.
A judge in the United States has ruled that Google acted illegally to maintain a monopoly on online services and related advertising. The company was found to have paid millions to other tech firms to be set as the default search engine on their products. And East Sussex has become the first area of the UK to offer access to PrEP through online and phone services. PrEP is the drug which protects against HIV infection. It's regarded as a major tool to achieve the aim of zero transmissions of HIV in the UK by 2030.
Driven through the covers.
Every huge boundary.
Clobbered over her head. Away to the boundary for 4.
Every huge six.
Fielder underneath it, can only watch it go over his head.
Every wicket.
Should be a simple catch. She's gone.
Catch it all.
Edge gone.
The 100 continues.
On BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra.
On the BBC Sport website and app.
And on BBC Sounds.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello, welcome to day 11 of the Olympic Games. A bit of a disappointing morning for Team GB in the equestrian show jumping. Scott Brash and Ben Maher missing out on individual medals. The gold went to Germany.
The Olympic champion here is Christian Kudek from Germany, who wins not only his first ever Olympic medal, it's the big G for the man from Germany.
Elsewhere, Team GB's Laura Muir is safely through to the women's 1500 metres semi-finals.
Slowly worked my way up, keeping an eye on the screen the whole time. There was quite a few of us there at the end, so it's like, you know what, I'm just going to stay at the front, out of the trouble, job done.
Later this hour, Sky Brown is about to get her qualification underway in the women's park skateboarding. That will be watched by Conor McNamara.
Yes, Sky Brown, who rose to national prominence winning bronze in Tokyo as a 13-year-old, competes this lunchtime in the skateboard women's park preliminaries, hoping to book a place in this afternoon's finals. But the preparation for these games has been fraught. Has she recovered in time from a dislocated shoulder suffered just 8 days ago?
We'll bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sports website and app, or watch on BBC One and iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports and the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
I'm loving being so busy with the Olympics here because we're here, there, and everywhere. So we'll take you. We've had you with the equestrians. We've had you with the beautiful, amazing, powerful horses. We will take you to the skate park, of course. I'm going to take you to the pool now, just for a little update. Team GB will have 2 finalists in the men's springboard diving taking place on Thursday. Jack Law and Jordan Holden both qualified this morning. And later on at the Aquatics Centre, Andrea Spendolini-Siriex goes for her second medal of the Games as she competes in the 10-metre platform final. What a team. So Mark Chapman from this parish and his team, our team, will be poolside for that one later. I suggest you make an appointment for that because I think it's going to be very, very exciting. Now, we're around 20 minutes away from the start of qualifying for this afternoon's women's park skateboarding final. At the Tokyo Games, the average age of the park medalists was just about 14, a little over 14 years old. Should we expect another teenage gold medalist this time around? Now, 5 Live's Conor McNamara is going to be watching this for us. Conor, hello.
Hello, Naga.
Hello. I have a skateboarding park near where I live.
Right.
And when
no
I go,
excuse then.
Well, when I go for a run and I see all the kids there, I used to do kind of like roller booting on ramps and stuff when I was a little younger. I think I would never do that. But the Olympics is the only thing that makes me, I think it blurs my, it deletes my sensible gene and makes me think I can try anything. And so honestly, I feel like going in and just going up to one of the kids going, can I have a go? Have you ever had a go?
Definitely. When I was younger, I think where I grew up in Ireland, there wasn't a single smooth surface. It was very much going down tarmac and getting every bone in your body reverberating. You look at the kids today. Wouldn't you love to, when you go through an airport, wouldn't you love to just whiz along a skateboard along those smooth surfaces? But long time ago. This is Place de la Concorde, the urban park, the home of the street sports here at Paris 2024. And look, I think everyone's heard of Sky Brown, haven't they?
Yes.
She really rose to prominence. She became such a big figure, just 13 years of age. Obviously, she's only 16 now. She said she's a bit stronger. She's a bit bigger now. She's grown into herself. She also tried, Naga. Talk about, daredevil. So she tried to qualify for these Olympics in surfing as well.
Yes.
And she came quite close and just narrowly missed out.
She's a very
proper
cool
athlete.
dude, isn't she?
Yes, I think that is that is the parlance you would use, isn't it?
I've interviewed her before when she was really young, a few years ago, and I just thought she's just really cool. She exudes cool, and she's a kid.
Yeah, for a kid to go through the endurance these athletes have to do, the injuries they suffer. There's been a lot spoken about this dislocated shoulder injury just 8 days ago.
Last week, wasn't it?
8 days ago. Now, maybe if some of our listeners are a little bit squeamish, turn down your radio for the next 30 seconds. So, she's in training, she falls over, her shoulder pops out. But remember now, she's 16. But this is a regular injury for skateboarders, so she's used to it. So normally she just pops it back in herself, and this was a bad one, and she wasn't able to pop it back in herself, and her dad had to come out and help her do it. And there's no sort of going to the hospital. She knows she's going to have surgery when she gets home from this, but for now it's about strap that shoulder in, hold it in place, and survive this week in the Olympics.
What's the film? The film where the superhero has to bash his shoulder back in.
Oh yes, I do know, and I can't
come
think.
on, in my studio here, come on guys, think of this film. It's not Tom Cruise who has to do it. It's not Bruce Willis, is it? Who is it that has to bash their shoulder back in? And it's like a theme in the film, isn't it?
This
Was
will
it
annoy
Lethal
me
Weapon?
later.
It's Lethal Weapon, Mel
Lethal
Gibson. I got
Weapon.
there all by myself. Do you remember? Because he gets trapped underwater and then he manages to dislocate his shoulder to get out of the trap thing.
He would have
and
been a
then
good
he gets out.
skateboarder. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is very painful, a dislocation. But you're young, I don't know, and determined, I suppose. And you do think, even if you have injuries, you think you're invincible when you're young anyway.
Yeah, and look, it is, as you've alluded to in the intro there, it's a very young person's sport. Sky Brown was 13 when she won her medal in Tokyo. The Japanese girl who got silver was only 12 at the time. Kokona Hiraki, she is involved again here in Paris. She's part of the first heat. I think Naga, just to explain it to the listeners, there's two types of skateboarding here at Paris 2024. There's street and there's park. So a street course has obstacles. It has rails to bounce off and over. There are stairs. There are benches. Basically, it's a course filled with street furniture. Now, Sky Brown competes in the park event. So this is the giant concrete bowl with steep curved walls. Sky Brown herself describes it as like skating inside a large empty swimming pool. And I think in the old days when the sport was developing, skaters used to use these drained swimming pools in California, and that's where it all came from. But they come down those curved walls, they get the bit of pace, then they get airborne. They can be high, 9-10 feet off the ground at times, and getting in the air is when then they can perform the tricks that will impress the judges. Each skater gets 3 runs. Your best run counts. Scores are out of 100. And, the stuff the judges are looking for, the style, the originality, the execution, the little minutiae detail that, will frankly go over the heads of a lot of us, your casual observers. And you will see them fall a lot. This is why these injuries come. It's a bruising sport.
Shall we hear from Sky Brown? Just see how far she's come. 16 years old now. She's got a good head on her shoulders.
I think I've definitely grown a lot. Just competing since Tokyo, I don't know, I feel when I compete now, I don't know, it feels good. I don't know what happened, but it just feels a little different somewhat, but it's a good different. I'm feeling really strong. I think every contest I'm growing, and grown a lot since Tokyo too, and coming here and meeting some of my supporters, it really puts a fire in my heart. Super special to me to win a gold for Great Britain. Got closer last time, but I want to do it for them this time. The GB has been really good support for me, and I want to do it for them.
You know, Connor, I'm looking at this park, this empty swimming pool with lumps in it. And I'm just thinking how glorious it looks. There are flags in the background, you know, the Place de Concorde, the sun is shining, dappled with the odd bit of cloud. It's a stunning venue.
I'm sure on the image you can see the sort of granite tower with the little golden pointy top on it. Do you know how old that is? That is 3,000 years old. That was built in Egypt. There was two of them. One of them was brought over in the 1830s. I mean, logistically, I can only imagine how that was involved. But this is the Place de la Concorde. This is where Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette met the guillotine. I mean, this is historic Paris, right in the heart of the city. 19 acres of Place de la Concorde, biggest square in all of Paris, and they've turned it into this incredible urban park. I was at the BMX Freestyle, which is just the other side. Basically, there's 4 sort of arenas as part of this urban park. The sun is blazing down, which I think really helps, Naga. Can you imagine if this was in the rain? It just wouldn't look the same. You need those blue skies, you need the colours all illuminated, and it looks fantastic.
You and I should both pop some cool dude pills so that we're in the mood, because in about 10 minutes I'm going to come to you, okay? And you're going to bring that, because just even when Sky was talking, she had that kind of drawl about her, didn't she? That really cool drawl about you. Kind of got a bit of it anyway.
She's very cool.
I don't have it.
She is like a character from a movie, isn't she? She must be a marketer's dream.
Yes. Okay, cool, Connor. I will come back to you in a short while. Thanks very much. Can't hear enough of this today.
120 metres to go. Once again, it's Hodgkinson and Mora. Keely Hodgkinson into the home straight. She looks up at the big screen. She's starting to pull away. Her competition are trying to get back to the British star. They are not going to catch her. It's going to be gold for Keely Hodgkinson. She is the Olympic champion. Silver has turned into gold here in Paris tonight. Keely Hodgkinson is on top of the world.
She certainly was. This is what it meant to her.
Yeah, I had a little cheeky look up at the screen just to make sure. But you can't do nothing until you've crossed that line and it's cemented. And I'm now the Olympic champion for the next 4 years, and nobody can take that away from me. And yeah, I can't believe it.
You know, I love the stories and all the connections that these superstars, these sporting superstars have with each other. So Keely went to the same school as England's Ella Toone. They are good friends. So Ella sent Keely this message, which was played to Keely last night.
Oh, congratulations, Keely. I've just been screaming at the telly. So proud of you. Everyone was rooting for you back home. You've done us all proud. And Fred Longworth proud as well. Enjoy the celebrations. Come on, Keely!
You know, I wonder if Ella Toone and Keely Hodgkinson, have a kickabout with a football. Or if Keely kind of takes Ella on, distance training. I don't know, not for 400 metre sport. But, I just wonder if she 800 metres, I wonder if she they train each other. Fred Longworth, by the way, that's the school. That's the name of the school they went to. Wasn't a guy. Well, it probably was at one point, but now it's the name of the school. So many people are very, very proud this morning. Now, one of those is Margaret Galvin, who was Keely's junior coach at Lee Harriers and Athletic Club. Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Naga.
Hello. Did they have a kickabout? Did you know Ella as well?
I did know Ella for a short time, yes. Her dad brought her down for to join the club, and they did run together for about 12 months, but Ella's love was the football and Keely's love was the running.
Do you know what? I never knew that. Thanks for that. Listen, so I was talking earlier to Alison Kirbishley, and I was saying I was watching, and it was one of the races I was less... I didn't clench my fists. My neck didn't go tight because I thought that Keely really had it in the bag. I thought she ran a really controlled race. How did you feel whilst watching it?
Well, to start, I thought she was quite nervous at the beginning, but once she started to run, then she was in control. She didn't let anybody get into her head. She didn't let Mora dictate any of the pace, which is what she would have wanted to do, because she is a 400-metre runner, a very good 400-metre runner, and she would have had the pace at the end. And when they both came round the bend, the final stretch into the home straight, that was the one thing that could have upset the party, but
why? Because someone
no,
does a final spurt.
Because Mary Moore, she's obviously got a good sprint on her, but so has Keely, and Keely had run it out of her. Really, she'd got into Mary's head rather than the other way around, and Keely triumphed.
I love that you've seen all this. To us, mere mortals, we'd have just watched someone running faster than someone else, really. But you're seeing all the mind games and kind of the pushing and the kind of holding people off. You're seeing all of that, aren't you? And you know, I know Keely came to you when she was 9, but you would have started putting these ideas of how races are actually won in her head, that it's more than just running fast.
Well, I can't really take credit because for putting the tactics, because she's always been very good at judging where she is in the race, and she's always liked to be a front runner. That was her way, and she just instinctively knows where to be at the right time. And obviously the right time. The right time was at the finish line before everybody else.
Too right, but that seems quite mature and quite. Is it quite unusual for a youngster?
To
have that race nous.
Well, yeah, that comes with practice and racing. But she, to me, she was always in control, and she just loved to do the front running.
There are going to be. I mean, I saw you all at the clubhouse yesterday watching the race, and it looked like a fantastic atmosphere. But there are also a lot of youngsters there who'll be looking up to Keely. What do they say about her?
Oh yeah, they're inspired. They're really excited. They probably have their running shoes on tonight, well before time to leave home and go to the Harriers, because they'll be excited. They'll be wanting to put some work in, because that's what you have to do. I mean, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of sacrifice that Keely made when she was a young teenager. Not going to parties, not going out Fridays, Saturdays, maybe because she got a race the day after. So lots of sacrifices there. But lots of dedication.
Have you managed to have a word with her family, or even Keely herself?
I've messaged her mum this morning. But I know that a mum has got lots of messages to look at, and she said she can't. I messaged her yesterday, and she said it's all getting rather a lot, and she had an emoji of a monkey with its head in his hands. But I'm sure she's so elated and so proud today that she'll just get on with it, and I'm loving talking about her because I'm just so proud of her. And my late husband Joe, who also coached with me, he would have been absolutely. He would have been crying his eyes out last night. He would. We're all so proud of her at Lee Harriers.
And Lee Harriers has produced an Olympian, a gold medal Olympian, the 10th British woman to win gold in athletics at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, that, for Lee Harriers, that is a moment of real pride, isn't it? That's something that it's a badge you'll wear with honour.
Oh, yeah. And she's only the third woman to have won the 800 metres gold. The first was Ann Packer in 1964, and then Kelly Holmes in 2004, and now Keely. So she's made history, and that will never change. And the fact that Lee Harriers have produced an Olympic gold medalist, well, it can't get any better. except for in Los Angeles to be a double gold medalist.
We shall see. We shall see. Margaret, it's been a joy talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your pride as well. It's reflected in all of us who just feel that not that we know her, but we want to have a little bit of her because we're so proud of her, of Keely Hodgkinson, of course. Margaret Galvin, who was Keely's junior coach at Lee Harriers Athletic Club, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Before we get to the news, you would have heard that 3 water companies this morning have been issued fines totalling £168 million. They are Thames Water, Yorkshire Water, Northumbrian Water. They've been accused of routinely releasing sewage into rivers and seas. They've also been accused of failing to invest and maintain their networks. These are big accusations, and it's the result of the largest ever investigation by the water regulator, Ofwat. So, Peter Ruddick, our Money and Work reporter, has been examining these fines, the reasons and also the implications of this. Peter, morning.
Good morning, Naga.
Yeah, so £168 million, a lot of money. Is it a lot of money to them?
Well, it's a very serious amount of money. So the Ofwat boss this morning said that they had found what they're calling a catalogue of failures. And it is a record combined fine, so it's not of this, the breakdown. You mentioned the 3 companies. Thames Water have got the largest fine of £104 million. That's not a record for a company. Southern Water had a larger fine back in 2019, but it's the largest combined fine. But in terms of the scale of it, so Ofwat, the regulator, they have the power to fine companies up to 10% of a water company's turnover. And in the case of Thames Water have been fined 9% of their turnover. So this is at the really most serious end of the range that Ofwat can levy against a water company. And you mentioned the reasons. They are really significant. So we're talking about failing to ensure that sort of discharges of sewage only occur in exceptional circumstances. And Ofwat said this had resulted in harm to the environment and customers. They said there was also a really strong correlation between the high spills and operational issues at wastewater treatment sites. So essentially, they're blaming poor maintenance for what they found. And they said that the water companies had failed to upgrade and invest in their networks. So it's a really serious charge. In terms of sort of the scale of it, remember for Thames Water, it's really important because they're already facing financial difficulty. So I think this is going to be, in particular for them, incredibly serious. But for water campaigners, today I think plenty of them welcoming these fines, but saying look, it's still a sticking plaster on an industry they think is broken beyond repair.
Water bills, are they going to be affected?
So really important to talk about. This is a historic sort of charge. So we're talking about periods from 2017 or 2020 up to last year. And so failure to keep legal obligations. But people listening may well remember we've talked recently about future water bills and them going up for sort of investments that are needed in the future network. And these two things are separate. So unfortunately, it still means higher bills likely for the 25 to 2030 period, 2025 to 2030 even. We'll find out more details on that later in the year. But Ofwat has said it's going to make sure that these fines aren't paid for by higher bills ourselves. So essentially the water companies have to find the money for these particular fines today themselves, so potentially from investors or from within the company, and that they're going to make sure that we're not paying twice. So we're not paying for the maintenance to fix the issues they found today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It does make sense. Thames Water, financial difficulty, we know that. You talk about our fines. What about all these companies' bonuses?
Yeah, so the Ofwat can't stop companies from paying bonuses directly, but the new government does want to bring in sort of tougher rules so that any money earmarked for upgrades can't be used to pay salaries or to pay dividends. So we'll watch to see what happens with those sort of proposals that were announced in the King's Speech. And again, Ofwat today has said that the money again for this shouldn't sort of be linked to salaries and bonuses, if you like. But campaigners, again, have been calling for much tougher rules in this particular area. But I think Thames Water is the really interesting one because, as we know, they are in financial difficulty. They've said just last month they only had enough cash to sort of fund them until the end of May 2025. They're already trying to raise cash from investors. They'd wanted to put bills up by a sort of a really significant amount, and They've been reined in by Ofwat, by the regulator. Potentially investors sort of want them to be able to charge those high amounts of bills if they're going to give extra money. So I think really important to keep an eye on Thames Water's reaction to this, because these are just proposed fines, so they can argue, they can appeal or they can ask for a settlement. But I think important to watch what the impact on Thames Water's finances could be as well.
Peter, thank you.
Thank
I'm going to
you.
go to the very cool Conor McNamara. We've decided that we have to be cool because he's keeping an eye on the Women's Park, the skateboarding.
I'm watching it. It's extraordinary.
You reckon you could do it? Not to their level.
You and I both know that there is absolutely zero chance. I mean, look at that. It's amazing. Sorry, this is not good radio for anyone.
No. Well, what's
amazing
amazing
pictures.
is them taking a skateboard along a ridge of the top of what seems like a dugout swimming pool and having no fit and being able to stop it, balance, and then flip round.
It's
and
when
go
they
back
kind
down.
of grab it. It almost looks like they're floating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Or flying. It's amazing.
Yeah. I'm glad they're wearing their helmets. It's a very dangerous sport. Okay, not for you. We'll give it a go. Maybe one day
I'll
we
have a
can
go at running. I can do it, but obviously not Keeley style, but I'll have a go at running, but that's all I can do.
The thing is, it's all inspirational, isn't it?
It really is.
That's what the Olympics does for us. It makes us think we can do anything. Peter, thanks so much. It is 11:34. Dina Campbell can certainly bring us the news. Hi, Dina.
Hi, Naga. Thank you. The Chief Inspector of Prisons, Charlie Taylor, has warned that jail capacity is really tight at the moment. It's after the government announced plans to create an extra 500 prison places from next week to help detain those arrested in riots across the country. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister has described Elon Musk's suggestion that civil war in the UK is inevitable following a week of unrest as deplorable. Heidi Alexander says social media companies have a responsibility to help address misinformation online. East Sussex has become the first area of the UK to offer access to the HIV medication PrEP through online and phone services. The drug, which protects against infection, is regarded as a major tool to achieve the aim of zero transmissions of the virus in the UK by 2030. Eluned Morgan has been confirmed as the first female First Minister of Wales following a vote in the Senedd. Members were able to take part remotely in the unusual summer sitting. Her name goes to the King for final approval.
If you're looking for laughs,
Lash.
BBC iPlayer's got you covered.
Our eye was secured. Oh, this is where the magic happens.
With over 3,000 episodes of comedy favourites.
They make for great entertainers.
Including The Office, Gavin and Stacey, Two Doors Down, and many more.
Oh, what is that? Whoa. Put my stapler inside the jelly again.
Bring on the laughs.
What are you laughing at?
Watch on BBC iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports and the Olympic Games
With Naga Munchetty.
on 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
Time now is 11:36. So you heard Peter and I go, ooh, couldn't do that at all, because we were keeping an eye on the Women's Park skateboarding final, which has just got underway. Someone with much more professional analysis and reporting is 5 Live's Conor McNamara, who's watching the early stages at the Place de la Concorde. You can improve upon us, can't you, Conor?
Well, I'm just watching here, and I'm watching the Spanish skater Julia Bendetti. I mean, here she is, start of her Olympic dream, getting to go in the first heat, and she probably lasted 2.5 seconds, and she fell, and then that's it. That's that run done. Now she does get 2 other chances, but
So once you
think
fall,
how
you have to
crude
stop.
it is.
Once you fall, you have to stop.
Yeah, once you fall off, because you see, like, you know, in say surfing, the board is attached to you, and the board, once you fall off, your skateboard goes shooting over to the other side of the thing. You've only got 45 seconds. By the time you've gone over and fetched it and get back up to the start, it just wouldn't be worth continuing again. And of the 4 skaters we've seen, 2 of them have fallen, which is just a reminder of how the skill level is so difficult at this Olympic level.
Can I ask a question? Another stupid question, really, because if I'd thought that through, I'd know you
I won't
wouldn't.
promise you an answer, but you can certainly ask it.
Are they? I see they're going up, and I have been keeping an eye on it. Oh, there's another fall. Who was that one who's just fell?
That is the American Wexstein.
Oh no, she got back. Oh no, she got back up to
she's
just leave.
She's just going back to the side. Yeah.
Did they do any jumps in this park? Because they seem to kind of go up on the rails and go along the side. But do they jump?
Yeah, well, in terms of jump, like they don't jump over an object. What they're doing is using these as ramps to get up in the air, and then it's when they're in the air, that's where they do this gripping onto the board and sliding around. But it's the street one that would be more the jumps you're thinking of. This is the park course. But the fashion and the boards themselves have kind of stood out for me, Naga. I mean, when you look at the bicycles in the velodrome, how shiny, how brand new, how expensive they look.
Yeah.
These skateboards get a lot of rough treatment. You know, these are the elite skateboarders in the world, and yet their boards are covered with scratches and marks, and they look like they're 100 years old. And the clothing, as you can imagine as well, is very casual. It's all baggy shirts. Many of them have the buttons open on the shirt. They've got jewellery dangling. It's everything you would expect from the skateboard culture.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the one constant thing, two constant things, three. Elbow and knee pads, that's two, and the helmet.
Well, you say that the first Japanese skater didn't have elbow pads, and it makes you wince because you think, oh dear. But I'm sure she's well used to landing on them.
Oh yeah, I mean, and so when it comes to the fashions, I'm looking at this one now. Trousers, the one before the American shorts, kind of crop t-shirt. This one's like.
It's not a strict uniform, but I think that's the culture of skateboarding. It's not about, conforming to what the other athletes of your nation are wearing. They very much seek their own style. Here's a question for you, Naga. If you're going on a skateboard, would you put your right foot on and push with your left, or would you put your left foot on and push with your right?
Can I just stand up? Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm just standing up. Right foot on, push with my left.
Right, so you would have the goofy stance.
It works
That's
for me.
what it's called.
Works for me. What's the other one called?
The regular stance.
I know, I want to be goofy.
You're not. If you're going to do it, you might as well be goofy.
Yeah. What are you? Have you figured it out?
Well, this is the weird. So I'm right-footed or right-handed, or I play golf right-handed, right?
Yeah.
And I would think that I would put my right foot on the board for sort of balance, and I'd use my left foot to push. In fact, if you're at the elite level, your strongest foot does the pushing. So it should be, if I'm right-footed and I'm dominant right, I should be pushing my right and balancing on my left. But I think I would do it the other way. And maybe, just maybe, Naga, that's why I'm not an Olympic skateboarder.
I'll throw something into the mix. Since you do play golf, you do know, before I leave you, that if you're right-handed, you're actually supposed to be more powerful if you play with left-handed clubs.
Yes, I have heard that, because I've got two sons who play golf, and I tried to bring that in, because Andrew Murray had told that to me many years ago at an Open, but they were having none of it. They wanted to swing it the way they want to swing it.
Yeah, as long as they're swinging, it's all good. Or skating,
Exactly.
whatever. I will come back to you, Connor, see how Sky Brown's doing as well. See you in a bit. Thanks, Connor.
Thank you.
The Team GB show jumping team has had an excellent games. 5 medals. 5. 2 of them, the really, really shiny gold ones. They did miss out on medals today in the individual final, but so much to be positive about. Rishi Prasad has been talking to the team at Chateau de Versailles.
5 medals for the British team, the best, obviously equaling the best that we've done in years gone by. And I've got part of the gold medal winning team, obviously. Ben Maher led us on the final day, Harry Charles in the middle, Scott Brash took it home on Jefferson, and Di Lampard, of course, the performance manager for the show jumping team. Ben, I'll just start with you, talking about summing up what a fabulous week it's been for equestrian sport, but particularly for your team.
Yeah, this team is amazing to be a part of. We're in a good era right now for show jumping, and it was a great day, the team event, and to have these guys working with me. We won because we come here as a team, and we're going home with another gold medal.
Harriet, not able to compete in individual today, but your horse Ramo is fine, just a little overreach. But for you to have watched your dad do what he did back in 2012 with these guys alongside him, and to win the gold medal with them again, must have been something incredible.
Yeah, it's like kind of a dream. To come here, I think we knew we had a pretty strong team. Maybe not everyone thought it, but we definitely knew we had a great team. And on the day, we worked the best as a team, and that's what will win you a gold medal in that event. So, to have seen these guys when I was younger with my dad up on the podium, and then to be joining them a few years later, I can't thank everyone enough. My horse Romeo, sadly we weren't able to go today, but he's in great shape and he's leaving here with a gold medal, so I'm happy for him, his owner, and the British equestrian team. I hope we've done the country proud.
When you hear him say that about his dad, does it make you feel a little bit old, Scott?
Yeah, it's just a bit, yeah.
Tell me about the role that not just obviously your teammates have played, but I love talking about the horses because they are so important, and the relationship that you all have, but also the support team, all the people alongside you that make this possible.
Oh yeah, as Harry said a few times, takes a whole village. There's so many people, and so many people to make sure the horses are totally well cared for. They've got physios, they get vets, farriers. There's other people as well. We have people that work on us, make sure we're riding well enough, and yeah, it takes so many people. The owners of all the horses, they're incredibly great supporters of us, really believe in us, and yeah, it just makes our job a bit easier when we have such incredible animals to be riding.
And we all know that regardless of the discipline, it hasn't been the easiest build-up for the British team to these Olympics. But regardless of that, the way that the team in its entirety have performed, particularly the show jumpers, who maybe in one or two circles exceeded expectations in the team event.
Well, I had all the confidence in them. They didn't only win the gold, but they did it in classical style. The preparation all came together for Friday, and we were just a hair's width away today.
You've heard us talking about the team support, but also the spirit and the strength in depth for our team. I mean, how bright does the future look?
Looks very bright. I mean, we're supported by UK Sport and the National Lottery that bring the up-and-coming athletes up to this level, and they've supported all these along their route, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned for going forward.
Well, we certainly echo those sentiments, and we want to thank you all for providing such wonderful entertainment, but also another gold medal here at the Equestrian. It's been wonderful watching you all. Many congratulations. Safe trip home. Look after those horses, and we'll hopefully see you all in LA in 2028.
Oh, what a great team. Absolutely fantastic performance. We will come back to the Olympics. Conor McNamara is in Paris and he's watching the skateboarding, the women's park qualifying. So we'll get an update on that because, of course, we're keeping a very close eye on Sky Brown, who's now 16 years old and first came onto the scene into our world, I suppose, when she was around 13. So a familiar name and face. However, I want to return to the news now. You will remember, 11:45 is the time. You will remember there was an incident with police at Manchester Airport last month. It caused a lot of concern about police behaviour, but also about the behaviour of those in the family. It was at the airport, and the family involved has given a press conference in the last hour, accompanied by the family's solicitor. Now, our reporter Phil McCann was there, and Phil, I think it's worth saying, it's worth going through what happened first, just to remind people why we're interested in what this family has to say.
Yeah, well, this incident was so prominent, wasn't it, Naga, in the news? It was captured, of course, by somebody on their phone, as so many things are. And it was one Tuesday night, a couple of weeks ago, when two brothers were being apprehended by the police. And on that video, we saw one of those brothers lying on the floor after having been tasered. He was then kicked in the face, and then his head appeared to have been stamped on. We saw the other brother. He was sitting on a seat with his hands on his head, so effectively giving himself up to the police, and he was then hit on the back of the neck or on his back with a taser. And there was an outcry, of course. There were protests outside Rochdale police station. The boys were from Rochdale. There were protests in Manchester as well. And then, of course, a few days later, we'll all remember that there was more video footage released, this time CCTV footage, which showed what happened just before that. And that appeared to show the two boys, when the police were trying to apprehend them, lashing out at the police and repeatedly punching them. There were three officers. We know that two officers had black eyes, one had a broken nose. They all had to be taken to hospital. And it led to a huge row, which left the news, of course, because of very significant events that happened in Southport and now in cities and towns across the country. But it's come back into the news today because the family feel that their side, their voice, hasn't been heard, whilst the police have been trying to provide what they call context.
OK. And this is after the disclosure of that CCTV video. I understand the solicitors said that was a deliberate attempt, this disclosure of the video to the Manchester Evening News was a deliberate attempt to smear the family and portray an incomplete version of events in a bid to prejudice proceedings. In terms of proceedings, what do we know that's going on?
Well, there's an investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, the watchdog, and we know that officers have been suspended, and one of those officers is facing a separate criminal investigation by the IOPC. And then there is also the Greater Manchester Police investigation into the altercation. It's important to say that the family have said for a few weeks now that if anyone is found to have broken the law, then they should face due legal process, and that of course involves the two brothers at the heart of this. That's something that was repeated today at this press conference. But yes, we heard the lawyer for the families, really very annoyed at the way that CCTV was released. There's been no confirmation as to where it's come from. It was released to the Manchester Evening News, which of course hasn't revealed what its source was, but very clearly the family's suspicion is that it has come from the police, and their suspicion is clearly that the police felt that they were being criticised and that this would clear their name to some extent.
Now, also, you mentioned that there were demonstrations outside police stations. The solicitor has referred to that as well, in terms of the demonstrations that did take place.
Yeah, and he says that the family would appeal for that not to happen. This was at the very end of quite a long statement that he gave here at the Midland Hotel in the middle of Manchester. He said the family wish to make a public appeal to the community that they do expect them to remain calm. He said they do not expect demonstrations outside police stations. He said the police have enough to deal with at the moment because of what he called right-wing thugs. And it's worth saying as well, throughout this press conference today, they repeatedly referred to the riots, and they talked about how police had acquitted themselves very well and how you didn't see the police, in his words, exacting retribution, which is what they claim the police officer or officers in this case were doing. They also pointed out that the two brothers at the centre of this have no previous convictions. He said not even a parking fine. And in the family, we know that one of their brothers is in fact a Greater Manchester police officer, and one of their uncles also works for the police.
Okay, you've spoken about the investigations. I mean, the family lawyer, the lawyer's making a statement now. What happens next? We just wait for these investigations to continue and conclude?
Yeah, we wait for this investigation. Exactly, yes. And parallel investigations, one into the officer who is facing a criminal investigation by the IOPC. Then the IOPC is also investigating the actions of Greater Manchester Police generally, and Greater Manchester Police are also looking into the actions of those who weren't their officers, if you like. It's just worth saying that the family, or the family's lawyer, thought it was very important to provide what he called more context here. And part of that was the events leading up to it, which we knew about already. The boy's mother being subjected, they said, to racist abuse on the plane by somebody from Qatar who was annoyed about her taking up an extra seat next to her, which was empty. There was then altercations in parts of Manchester Airport that led to the police intervening. He also wanted to disclose an event that he said took place afterwards, where he said one of the officers was asked by one of the brothers about why his body-worn video camera wasn't on, and he said that he said to him, "I'll show you why," and effectively put him into a headlock, took him around a corner, and then pinned him face down on the floor and said, "That's why my video isn't on." So it's things like that, context, if you like, from the family that they feel hasn't been disclosed. But I asked them afterwards, I asked their lawyer afterwards in the press conference, he has said that there is no context that could justify the conduct of officers. I asked him if there is any context that could justify two boys repeatedly punching officers in the face. He didn't answer that, though, because he said that is something that those various investigations will have to determine.
Yeah, it's an interesting forum to hear this being played out in at the moment. We'll see where it goes. Phil, thanks very much. That's Phil McCann, our reporter there, who was at the press conference given by the family involved in that incident with police at Manchester Airport last month, and the family's lawyer. New Welsh Labour leader Eluned Morgan has been elected First Minister of Wales in a special meeting of the Senedd in Cardiff, replacing Vaughan Gething, who resigned as First Minister after just 4 months in the job. Baroness Morgan has just made this speech at the Senedd in Cardiff.
This is an historic day as a woman becomes the First Minister of Wales for the first time in our history. As First Minister, I promise to champion voices and experiences which have too often been sidelined and silenced, to champion parts of Wales that too often feel like they're on the periphery, like my home in St David's in West Wales. No one will be left out. I extend my hand in gratitude and in genuine partnership to everyone in Wales. In a world where things that divide us are amplified and emphasised, sometimes for profit, I want to make it clear that I will be a listening First Minister, listening to all, not just those who shout the loudest or who have the most power.
Professor Laura McAllister is Professor of Public Policy at Cardiff University. Hello, Laura. Hello, Professor McAllister. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Naga. How are you?
Excellent. I'm very well. Can I ask a favour? Can you
Of
tell me
course.
how to pronounce Baroness Morgan's first name, please?
Elined.
Elined. Emphasis
And
on the
she will-
second syllable.
Yes, that's right. It is Elined, and most people in Wales would call her Morgan, but Morgan is fine as well.
I always feel if I say Morgan, I feel like someone's going to think I'm taking the mickey out of the Welsh accent.
No, beautifully pronounced.
Okay, Elined Morgan.
Absolutely right.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've got that clear now. I'll remember that. She's got an interesting task ahead. I tell you what, third leader in as many months? That is a party. I mean, it's a party that has seemed unstable, but also the Welsh government needs some stability. Can she do it?
I think that's a absolutely spot on analysis, Naga. She faces a whole series of difficult elements in her tray. Labour has been in power in Wales since the very beginning of devolution, so for over a quarter of a century. There's no doubt at all in most people's minds that the party needs to look hard at itself and undertake a process of renewal and revitalisation. But the problem Elined Morgan faces is that she has to do that while the party's in power. Normally, these opportunities for review come when a party's lost an election. But in this case, what's happened has been a period of incredible inner strife within the Welsh Labour Senedd group, but also within the wider party in Wales. And she has a big task on her hands to, first of all, unite Welsh Labour, and then, of course, to try and develop some momentum behind a party that is increasingly looking tired in government.
And also, I suppose, establishing a relationship with the new Prime Minister. I mean, because remember when he came to office, he did a tour of the nations, didn't he? He was meeting Vaughan Gething at that time.
Well, therein lies another problem, to be perfectly honest, because in theory, relationships should be much stronger between a Welsh Labour government in Cardiff and a UK Labour government under Keir Starmer. But we've already been told, despite the protestations of Welsh Labour, that there will be no more money for Wales. There will be no rationalisation of the HS2 funds, which were not Barnetised, as we say. That is, Wales got no money from a project that had not an inch of track in Wales.
And
That
the
would have been a
Barnett formula,
substantial-
just to explain, the Barnett
The
formula
Barnett
is a
formula.
calculation that means the devolved nations get a certain percentage of the pot.
Of the spend on projects in England that are not devolved. So, of course, that would have been an enormous fillip to the Welsh government to be able to spend on transport infrastructure, but we've been told that's not forthcoming. So the relationship between UK Labour and Welsh Labour, we're going to be watching with some interest. At one level, it'll be much more cordial than it has been, because it's been pretty fractious between the former Conservative government and a Labour government in Cardiff Bay. But on the other hand, the expectations from the public in Wales will be much greater. And I'm not sure that Keir Starmer will be able to deliver on those. The relevance of that, Naga, is that we face a Senedd election in little over 18 months when the Senedd reconvenes in the autumn. And Plaid Cymru is currently neck and neck with Welsh Labour in the recent opinion polling, which means that alongside a challenge from Reform UK in a proportional electoral system, Elined Morgan's Welsh Labour could be facing challenges from both flanks in that election.
You know, Elined Morgan has been running the NHS in Wales. Now, this has been used as a stick to beat Labour. I mean, it was used to beat the former Labour leader, and I'm not sure when it came to the elections that the Welsh Labour managed to kind of get its defence across well enough.
Well, look, you're quite right. Eluned Morgan has been Health Secretary under two First Ministers, Mark Drakeford, and more recently under Vaughan Gethin. So given this is the most important issue in the public's mind, quite rightly, because, there are long waiting lists, there are problems, like there are, by the way, in every NHS across the UK, slightly different, better in Wales in some areas, worse in others. But the reality is this is the area that exercises the public most. And Eluned Morgan has nowhere to hide on that because she's been Health Secretary. So she either goes back to her own policies and changes them with a new Health Secretary in her cabinet, or she continues to pursue the policies that have been there already. So it's going to be very tough because I think that will be the issue upon which she will be judged, certainly in a Senedd election in under 2 years' time. So she's facing a very big challenge there. By the way, that's what will be interesting in terms of the composition of her cabinet, because she herself described being Health Secretary as being one of the very, very toughest jobs, a poison chalice, if you like. So it'll be interesting to see who she decides to hand that poison chalice to in her new cabinet.
It's interesting, though, because I think it can be considered a poison chalice for any of the nations in terms of, you know, when it comes to the NHS, because obviously there are mountains to climb. But however, it is such a big brief. It's such a senior job as well. You can imagine there'd be a great sense of pride if they were thought of, you are responsible enough to take this mantle on. Professor Laura McAllister, Professor of Public Policy at Cardiff University, thank you very much. One for the pronunciation and the confidence that I now have in saying Eluned Morgan, who is now First Minister of Wales. And thank you very much for your knowledge as well and your analysis of what may happen next. We have a much better understanding. Thank you. We are coming up to 12 o'clock. Yes, 12 o'clock. So we've had a busy morning so far with the Olympics. What we are waiting for now is the qualifying stages. Well, it's going on at this moment. So at the Women's Park Skateboarding Final, we're looking out for Sky Brown. Conor McNamara will keep us up to date after 12 o'clock. First of all, though, let's get an update with the news.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The 5 Live News with Dina Campbell. Police say they are treating the serious assault of a man in Belfast during last night's riots as a racially motivated hate crime. The man, who's in his 50s, is being treated in hospital after witnesses reported seeing people stamp on his head. Hundreds of people have been arrested in connection with the disorder across England and Northern Ireland over the past week. The Justice Minister, Heidi Alexander, has told 5 Live that more than 500 additional prison places will be made available. Here's our political correspondent, Harry Farley.
It's going to come partly from repurposing cells in Cookham Wood in Kent, but also a new block in Rutland. Keir Starmer says he wants those who have been arrested to be remanded in custody while they wait for trial. And there's an additional protocol that's been set up so that the courts can sit for longer if they need to. That is actually up to the judiciary, up to the judges to set those hours, but that power is there if they need to sit for longer.
Local health officials say Israeli forces have killed at least 8 Palestinians in the north of the occupied West Bank. The Israeli military says it carried out 2 separate airstrikes targeting members of armed groups. Our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell, is in Jerusalem.
Footage from Aqaba near Tubas shows a house stained with blood. Locals say that a boy of 14 was among those killed after an overnight raid by Israeli forces resulted in violent confrontations. Meanwhile, in Jenin, a regular flashpoint, an Israeli warplane attacked what the Israeli military described as terrorist cells. A column of Israeli armoured personnel carriers was filmed entering the city while armoured bulldozers dug up roads. Tensions remain very high across the West Bank.
The water regulator, Ofwat, has announced huge fines for 3 water companies. Thames, Yorkshire and Northumbrian Water face penalties totalling £168 million over historic sewage spills. Yorkshire Water says they're disappointed with the decision. The Scottish Qualifications Authority has apologised after thousands of pupils waiting for their exam results were sent blank emails. The exam body says the technical issue has been resolved. The Welsh opera singer and BBC Wales presenter Wyn Evans has been announced as the 3rd contestant for this year's Strictly Come Dancing. He'll be joined by the singer and actress Toyah Wilcox. The JLS singer JB Gill and the comedian Chris McCausland were the first celebrities to be announced yesterday.
Welcome to the Tooney and Russo show in Ibiza! I'm here with two of football's most famous friends, Alessia Russo and Ella Toon.
What do you mean I can't go on? This is what this holiday's been booked for. It's all about the big inflatable. You're telling me I can't go on? You're crushing my dream. I'm delirious. I had a big night last night. It's nice to come out and have a bit of a holiday, isn't it?
From BBC 5 Live, the Tooney and Russo show with me, Vic Hope.
Watch on YouTube and listen on BBC Sounds.
The Olympic Games, Paris 2024.
With Naga Munchetty.
On BBC Radio 5 Live.
Hello, welcome to day 11 of the Olympic Games. Sky Brown is about to get her qualification underway in the women's park skateboarding. It's being watched by Conor McNamara.
And has Sky Brown recovered in time from a dislocated shoulder just 8 days ago? The bronze medal winner from Tokyo as a 13-year-old competes in the next half an hour or so at Place de la Concorde in the skateboard women's park preliminaries.
Great Britain's Ben Maher was unable to defend his equestrian show jumping title. The gold went to Germany.
Christian Kudek from Germany, who wins not only his first ever Olympic medal, that also means that they finish as the leading nation here in equestrian sport at the Olympic Games.
Elsewhere, Team GB's Laura Muir is safely through to the women's 1500 metres semi-finals.
You know what, I'm just going to stay at the front, out of the trouble, job done. We're all in the semi-finals and hopefully fingers crossed the final, but just got semi-finals to work towards now.
We will bring you every Team GB medal live here on 5 Live. You can also follow events on the BBC Sport website and app or watch on BBC One and iPlayer.
This is 5 Live Sports at the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
So it is 4 minutes past midday here, 4 minutes past 1 p.m. in Paris, and that is where qualifying for this afternoon's women's skateboarding final is underway, with Team GB's Sky Brown, one of the favourites for gold. Now, 5 Live's Conor McNamara is watching the action at the Place de la Concorde. Conor, I have lots of questions. First question, I'm seeing the Americans, that there are 4 heats, yeah?
Yes.
And in each heat, what happens?
So in each heat, there's either 5 or 6 skaters. They each get 3 runs. Now, the run takes about 45 seconds. In that, they try to impress the judges with their tricks. Poor old Spaniard Julia Bendetti fell early on both of her first 2 runs. So in a score out of 100, she got 4.3 for the first one. She got 8.5 for the second. You could just imagine that crushing feeling she'll be experienced. But she goes out again in the third, gets 70 at 0.27. Now, it still has her very much at the bottom of the leaderboard, which is formative. The best score we've seen so far is 88.07. So 88 out of 100 for Kokona Hiraki, the silver medalist from Tokyo. So that's the sort of target that later on Sky Brown will be going for. Of course, no medals decided here. This is just the preliminaries. You don't have to finish top of the leaderboard here. You just want to get into the final, which takes place later on this afternoon. Bryce Wetstein of the USA is very pleased there. She was she's got this small little ukulele type guitar that she doesn't obviously hold while she's riding, but at all other opportunities that's out. So that's clearly something very important to her. She's playing the little ukulele. She was over doing those Zoom calls, chatting to relatives, which so many of the athletes do.
Can you explain this, Conor? Because I saw it on the screen, but obviously if people aren't watching and they're listening to us, thank you very much for your company. Can you explain kind of what they do afterwards? Because it's a really lovely touch, especially considering so many of these competitors are very young.
Yeah. So this came in Japan, in Tokyo 3 years ago, which was obviously still COVID-y times, and relatives and friends couldn't be there in person to support. But it was such a big hit. The athletes loved it. I think us neutrals looking on it warms our hearts. So they've kept it here in Paris, and you'll see this at many of the events. They call it the athletes' moment. It's a big screen. It's quite like that pitch side monitor the referee would come over to, the video assistant referee in football. But they come over to that, and they have it. It's all pre-arranged. They've got their little Zoom call with their relatives and friends, and they can do that. And it is a lovely, touching moment. And you'll see that across most of the sports here in Paris.
So, Sky Brown is in Heat 3.
Third Heat, yeah. With Lola Tambling, who I think we should mention as well. There are 2 Team GB riders taking place. Lola Tambling, who's 16 years of age, based out of Cornwall, and she is in the same heat as Sky Brown.
Do you know what? Sorry, you just caught me having a biscuit. I got brought a cup of tea. I'm very lucky. I'm dipping malted milk in my tea. I apologise. in some ways, it might be quite nice for Lola to not have the attention on her. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Sky knows how to handle it, or has so far known how to handle it. And you say, I must mention her. Perhaps Lola's thinking, you know what, Sky, you take it all, because this is pressure enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any of the preview articles, you search across the web and the different newspapers, and it is all about Sky Brown because she's had this image, cultured over the years. Such a young medalist. I mean, 13 years of age in Tokyo. That was going to be a story regardless of the sport. So, yeah, she's become very much centre stage. We mentioned that she tried to qualify in the surfing. She clearly enjoys the limelight. And Lola Tambling in a sport in which, she's here in the elite. She's in 24 women who are in this women's park preliminaries. I mean, just to get to this stage, you've got to be the best of the best. You've got to be so elite. But there's no doubt, and look, my knowledge in this is not that complete. But from what I can gather, there's about 5 of these skaters who are the top ones, who everyone knows they're going to be in the medals, and the others are very much lovely to be in their shadow and proud to be involved. But it would be an enormous shock if they were to feature. And just to explain that, Naga, so much so that this course has been developed in what they would call an actually slightly simplified version, because you could have it at a trickier level, but that would only be suitable for these top 5, of which Sky Brown would be one of, elite riders. But what they don't want is just 5 completely dominating and the others almost unable to complete the course, so they've slightly simplified it back. And it's not many Olympic sports where you'd hear that.
No, not at all. But I mean, it's hard enough anyway. I'm just reading my. We get. I have a Bible of all the sports, right? And we talk about the young age of all those competing. And so there was some research done. A newspaper asked after Tokyo, because 4 of the 6 medalists were 13 or under, right? So they were like, what? Why do children do so well here? They are children, mere babes. And the reasons cited range from children being leaner, having a lower centre of gravity, a greater ability to recover from falls. We were talking about Sky Brown's dislocated shoulder, weren't we? Plus the fact that they're often fearless and creative. All makes sense, doesn't it?
No, it absolutely does. I mean, you go to your average playground in the park and you will see kids come off slides and swings, and I think those of us of a more advanced age, we'd be looking for medical assistance, and there might be tears for 45 seconds or something, but then they very quickly get up and go on it again. It's the whole no fear element of being a child. Look, I think as well that there's a few things to put in this. This is a very, very new sport, and you see it a lot in the BMX as well. Predominantly young riders, because when they were in this young developmental stage, let's say even when they're 7 or 8, they started getting training, they started being developed, because by that stage it was known that skateboarding, that BMXing was going to be in the Olympics. Previous generations, if you were, a dedicated athlete, if you wanted to put a lot of time and work into something, you might have been moved away from these sports because they weren't Olympic sports. So I think that's a generational thing, and it's not necessarily always going to be the case that they're very young. I think because these are the first timers, if you will, but these kids now will presumably into their 20s want to keep involved. And it's not only, you look into the men's, there are a lot older skaters. There's a Team GB skater who goes tomorrow, Andrew MacDonald, and he's 35 years of age. So for all the reasons that you've illustrated, young kids do an advantage, and there's a pathway into this sport that just wouldn't exist in other disciplines, but it's not exclusive to younger kids. And I think it'll be intriguing to see how many of these, given another 10 years of experience, and at that stage they'll only be in their mid-20s, how good they'll be then.
Well, I'm going to blow your mind. You know this already, but I'm going to blow our listeners' minds. There's someone who would be... It would take another 14 years. No, 24 years. 24 years to reach that stage, because there is an 11-year-old from China about to compete in the next heat. So look, 11 years old and at the Olympics. Wow.
But what an experience, for the rest of their lives, regardless of what happens. What an experience to do. It is Hao Ho Sheng from China, 11 years of age. And, wow, the spotlight of a global television audience, thousands of people in Place de la Concorde. And, you wish that, look, I think we're used to seeing this with a lot of the gymnasts being young ages, over the years, Nadia Comaneci and all that, back down through the decades. It is amazing in Olympics how sometimes the very young kids can be the best at what they do, and adults wouldn't be able to do what they can.
bonkers. It's brilliant, though. Connor, I'll be back with you. Yeah, hopefully this will happen in my hour. I don't want you handing all the good stuff to Mark Chapman, I'll tell you that much. See you soon, Connor. Bye. Let's step back to some news, shall we? US Vice President Kamala Harris is expected to announce her running mate today. And it ends a couple of weeks of intense speculation. Ms. Harris interviewed several top contenders in Washington, D.C. over the weekend. They were Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz and Mark Kelly. Her choice, it will join her on a whirlwind 5-day tour of 7 cities, and it begins in Philadelphia today. Now, David Dunn is Professor in International Politics at the University of Birmingham. Professor Dunn, David, hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Now, look, I will come to the candidates in a moment. Can I ask I don't think it's a silly question. Do we care? Does it really make that much of a difference who her running mate is, her vice president is, to the voters?
Well, I think we've seen with the appointment of J.D. Vance as Trump's running mate that actually it can have an impact on the overall image of the campaign. Vance was seen as signalling Trump's direction. He wanted the party to go in after him. And yet it's really blown up in his face because we have all these videos of him attacking childless cat ladies and other weird stuff coming out. So allowing the Democrats to actually call both Vance and Trump weird by association. So it can have an impact negatively. We saw the same thing when Sarah Palin was chosen as a VP choice of Senator McCain. So it can have an influence, and all the reports coming out of Washington are that the machinations and the late announcement of this choice is partly to do with all the internal politics within the Democratic Party influencing the way in which that choice is going to go. And the Democratic Party was happy to unite behind Harris as the candidate without a fight, and yet there has been a behind-the-scenes fight over who the vice presidential pick would be. So there's issues of uniting the party, potentially dividing the party, potentially trying to avoid contentious issues at the convention in Chicago. The Democratic Party has a reputation for fratricidal debates and circular firing squads, so there's part of that consideration involved in the choice. Long term, there's an issue here as well, because if the Democratic Party in office has always picked their vice presidential serving candidates have always gone on to be the choice of their party afterwards. So Harris, Biden, Gore.
But when we say choice, sorry to interrupt. When we say choice, President Biden didn't actually hand the baton over and pardon the athletics pun. Obviously, we are covering the Olympics. Didn't pass it over with the grace that perhaps he could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was drag kicking and screaming.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. I'm glad you said that.
Despite that, yeah, I was making the point that if you're chosen to be if you're elected as the Democratic vice president, you're almost certainly going to get the opportunity to lead your party into an election in the future, and so that matters in terms of succession, and that's an issue that's important, perhaps.
Okay, so of the three I mentioned. How can I remember them? I'm assuming none of them are going to be calling anyone child-free cat ladies. And as one, I'm very proud. But how can I remember them?
Well, it's really come down to three, but I'll dismiss the third one. So there is from Arizona, the senator there, who is a short, bald guy, if you want to remember that aspect to him, called Mark Kelly, who was a former Navy fighter pilot. He served in the first Gulf War. He went on to be an astronaut. So he's strong on the border as far as the Republican Party, the Democratic Party is concerned. So he's regarded as a great CV for the office. But the reports are that actually he is no longer in contention, or certainly has dropped off the top 2 list. And part of that reason, as a senator, if she appointed him, that would leave a Senate seat vacant in Arizona, and that could be an issue in terms of a tight Senate after the election. So for that reason alone, I think it's unlikely to be him. Then the other two are you really got the charismatic lawyer, Josh Shapiro, who is the governor of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, of course, is the key swing state in the election. 19 electoral college votes, so crucial as to the path to the White House for the Democratic Party. And
dark hair, slick dark hair and glasses. Because if you're going to do the aesthetic of Mark Kelly, I think it's only fair that we do it for Josh Shapiro.
And actually, height matters in elections, and hair matters in elections. People don't tend to get elected if they don't look the part, especially in America. Television, charisma, being a good orator, as Josh Shapiro is, they're all key factors. Going against him is the fact that he is seen as an observant Jew who has taken a strong line on Israel's right to self-defense. And for that reason alone, the left have coalesced against him because they see him as someone who is not on side for the younger members of the party, for the Arab American population who are divided on the issue of support for Israel and Gaza. And therefore, he would have been a shoo-in if that hadn't been an issue, given the centrality of Pennsylvania and all his other factors going for him. So the third candidate is the one that's really come from nowhere, who is the not Josh Shapiro candidate. He is Tim Walz from Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota. He's 61, looks older. He reminds
me of the guy, because I've looked at his pictures, he's always smiling, from the film Up. You know, the cartoon?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Do you see it? Because he's got these glasses, hasn't he? These narrow, kind of shallow glasses and the grey hair. I'm just trying to paint a picture for our listeners, because many will be unfamiliar.
He doesn't look athletic, even though he was an athletics coach and as a high school teacher. He is the everyman.
That's a very polite way of putting it. May I commend your diplomacy there?
Yes, indeed. Yes. Well, we could think of other words, but I think that captures it. He is someone who spent his career as a non-commissioned officer. He was a master sergeant in the army. Then he went to high school teaching, came into politics through that way. Unlike Shapiro, who went to Georgetown, he went to a local university. So he's the everyman candidate. He's the favourite of the left, primarily because he's not Josh Shapiro. He would be. He adds that white man, that neutral white man, to the ticket rather than anything else. But he's personable. He's charming. He's loved. He's popular, and he would be a safe choice.
Okay, well, look, it's very interesting you brought up the white man added to the ticket, especially after Josh Shapiro as well being Jewish, because it's interesting. It's almost like, where's the backlash against Kamala Harris going to come? The colour of her skin? Well, there's been a black president, or the fact that she's a woman?
It's a good question. I think it's more, and we see this in the remarks from Donald Trump. He is trying to actually portray her as an Indian American, not a black American, saying she only recently turned black. He's trying to actually...
which he's been ridiculed for.
Which has been ridiculed for. I mean, it's a hugely divisive and very risky political move on his part. I mean, he was openly laughed at in front of the Black Journalists Association when he made those remarks. But you have to understand what Trump is about is not trying to play to the middle. What he's trying to do is to get his base out and to get people who've never voted before to come out and vote for him. That's his electoral strategy. So in a sense, he actually wants to divide and he wants to polarize and he wants to inflame, and that's what he sees as his path to victory. It's a very different electoral strategy, but it worked for him in some senses in 2016. And therefore, race is an issue, and that's partly why she's keen to balance the ticket with a white guy.
In terms of politics, are there any stark contrasts between her and her potential VPs in terms of what balance needs to be brought to her politics, because she's largely following Biden's agenda, isn't she? You know, she started off by just saying President Biden has been amazing, he's been fantastic, best president we've had, la-di-da-di-da. So, you know, it doesn't seem like anything's going to change there. Are there calls for a balance to those politics?
There is a bit, and that's why, in a sense, that the potential of Josh Shapiro is an interesting one, because in a sense he actually is seen as more pro-Israel and is more centrist on foreign policy questions and even on labour relations, and therefore, in terms of the wider electorate, and especially the wider electorate in the swing states in the Rust Belt in the Midwest, he may be a more popular choice for those constituencies. But she has to balance that against the division within the party more broadly, and especially given that conference convention in Chicago, and therefore what he brings to electability in the general election may be divisive in terms of the party short of that. What Tim Walz brings is a fairly centrist, not really standing out on any particular issue. So he's a fairly bland candidate. If we went back to Mark Kelly, what he does is he's taken a strong position on the border. He's criticised the Biden administration on the border. So in terms of the southwest states, sort of Arizona and Nevada, which are swing states, he may be seen as popular there and may be seen as delivering Arizona to the ticket if he was the candidate chosen for those reasons. So, but in terms of actually other things, it's more about the symbolism rather than the policy positions, because the policy position is ultimately set by the presidential candidate, and the vice president has to fall in line with that. So there's not a huge amount of ideological or political weight brought to the ticket by the vice presidential pick.
Quick word, you know, there has been this criticism over J.D. Vance and these videos coming up. Could Donald Trump pick someone else?
He has been endorsed by the party at the convention, so he formally couldn't sack him. But what could happen is that actually Trump could have a word in his ear and say, I want you to resign, and force him out that way. And then that would allow the mechanism to allow Trump to pick somebody else. But the loss of face in doing so would be so difficult for Trump that that's probably unlikely. And what Trump has said openly is, it doesn't matter who my vice presidential candidate is, because people always vote for the candidate. They vote for me, they don't vote for him, and therefore it doesn't matter. So he's trying to ride it out and actually and not regard it as an issue as far as he's concerned.
Which is why I kind of asked at the beginning, does it matter? But you explained that beautifully. David Dunn, thank you so much. We have a visualisation now of Josh Shapiro, Tim Walz and Mark Kelly, don't we? Josh Shapiro, dark hair, glasses, about 50-ish. Tim Walz looks like the guy from the cartoon Up. And Mark Kelly, who was, did you say less grounded?
Follically challenged.
There we go. Thank you very much, Professor David Dunn, Professor in International Politics at the University of Birmingham. OK, let's go to the women's skateboarding final, where they were at the park. Connor, are you mixing? You kind of, the young athletes there are impressing, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, this sport is great to watch. It's made for television, and obviously it's great in real life, and the colours of it on a baking hot day at Place de la Concorde. There is mercifully a little bit of breeze, just making things more bearable for the spectators and for the athletes down there. But this looks great. Obviously the colour of the uniforms, the sort of, the lilac and pink and green Paris Olympics colours, illuminating what is otherwise very much a concrete slab of a course here. But it is just great to see these skaters flying through the air. They've got all the high-tech cameras so they can show the super slow-mo replays, and the level of skill, because we've seen a lot of falls and crashes. The bravery where they try to land right near the top of a half pipe when they come back down it, because the higher that you get back, wheels on the surface, the more downward ramp you're going to get. Therefore, the more speed. Therefore, the more height on the other side. So there is a bravery involved here, and because they get 3 runs, I think tactically, Naga, it's interesting. What would you do? Do you think, okay, I'm going to have 1 safe run just to get a decent score on the board, and then I'll push it a bit more and I'll take more risks the second and third time round? Or maybe do you say, look, come on, this is the Olympics, this is my one chance to shine, I'm going to go and take on the really tricky moves, as down goes the French rider here. Nana Taboulé hits the deck a mere 7 or 8 seconds into her first run in the second heat, and the crowd had been giving her such encouragement. She will get another couple of runs, but I always think it feels so despondent. She's 15 years of age, a mere few seconds into your Olympic debut to end up crashing out like that. It really does tug at the heartstrings.
Got a quiz for you. I know
Oh, dear.
you know how old the youngest participant of the Olympic Games, youngest competitor at the Olympic Games is. I don't know if you know how old the oldest is. And
I have read this. It's
really?
it's like 65, isn't it? Equestrian. I can't remember the gentleman's name.
I
think
will
I'm right
look
saying
it
65.
up. I will look it up whilst you tell me, because I think the youngest is coming up. Do you want to tell me more about her?
Yes, so this is a big moment in the life of the Chinese Zheng Haohao. Now, you want to know how old she was? She was born on the penultimate day of the London 2012 Olympics.
Stop
Next
it.
week she turns 12, but it was August 2012 that she was born. She's underway, not just the youngest athlete of any sport at these Olympics, the youngest athlete to ever represent China. She's just a little slip of a thing, the really little stick-like legs, but power that she gets as she propels herself from one side of this course to the other. She's done very well so far here. She's got 25 seconds into her run and it's been flawless so far. She just about scraped through in the qualifying. She had one of the lowest scores to get to these games, but you can see nothing but youthful exuberance and confidence here into the final 10 seconds. You'll have heard the beep in the background there, and this has been really good so far. The best score that we've seen today has been 88.07 from Kokoro Hiraki of Japan, and it looks here like it's going to be a clean round, and it is. No falls. What a great moment. 11 years of age. What were you doing when you were 11? Because Zheng Haohao has just completed a safe around the course. Now, I mentioned about the risk and reward. Was she playing it safe? Did she just want to get from one end of the course to the other? But she's managed to go around without a tumble or a fall, and to my very uneducated eye, that looks a clean performance from Zheng Haohao. 11 years of age and a clean run first time, and maybe she can even try to up the ante a bit more now with runs 2 and 3. But isn't it great to be young? No fear.
Just brilliant, just brilliant. No, I'm not going to reassess my life choices. It's been too long now. No, I wasn't as brilliant at 11. Connor, thank you very much. Connor McNamara, I'll be back with you. Oldest competitor at the Paris Olympics, 65-year-old Connor was right. Juan Antonio Jimenez Cobo, who made his equestrian Summer Games debut at the Sydney Olympics in the year 2000. Right, we have been celebrating Keely Hodgkinson. Why on earth wouldn't we? That amazing win in the 800-metre final. Let's get some reaction from former Team GB middle distance runner, 2012 European 800-metre champion Lindsay Sharp, who also finished 6th at the Rio Olympics in 2016. And now, Lindsay, hello. If anyone knows what a good run looks like, I think it's you. Tell me, how good was she?
Yeah, it was absolutely sensational last night. I think the one thing that we really need to acknowledge is it's so difficult to make an Olympic final, and to hold it together and to deliver when you're a favourite by so far was just so impressive.
You make a really, really good point there, because I was sitting and watching with a bunch of friends last night, and none of us really doubted that she was going to do it, especially once, she'd got going past the first 100 metres. We were like, yeah, she's got it back. She looks so controlled. It is hard. It is harder than hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think everyone was so confident in Keely, but, as someone who's been on that start line, there was just a little bit of me that thought, anything could happen. Someone could fall. So many people ran fast in the qualifying. So I think, it's easy to think that she will just deliver, but that was seriously so impressive.
I was talking to a coach of hers I think she started coaching her when she was 9. And one of the things she said is that Keely knew how to run a race. Now, to someone like me, run fast, be the fastest, finish first. You've run the race. But she was explaining that, the strategy, knowing where she is in the race and everything. And that was apparent and evident at a really young age. How important is that? What kind of skill is that to learn?
Yeah, and that's the thing about Keely, is that she is such a good racer. And I think if you watch the race back, you might be able to spot there was a spot 200 metres into the race where her competitors kind of that was their chance. Someone needed to go past her at 200 metres in, and she closed that opportunity. And that was, for me, the moment that I knew that she'd won the race early on.
How did she close it? Because everyone's going to be going back on the iPlayer to watch it now, to spot this moment. So you're going to have to tell us, you're going to have to educate us here, because this is the joy of Olympics coverage. How do you spot that moment, and how does she close it down?
So someone came up her outside, and she just increased her pace ever so slightly, that they weren't able to do that, and that was it done. Like, she had the confidence to know that she could cover that move, and they then realised that Keely was supreme and Keely was going to win.
You know what? Middle distance races, there are still more to come. And Team GB, I don't want to jinx it, but, you know, I think we're doing well enough. I'm going to risk it. We're flying quite a bit. I mean, in terms of further medal success, who have you got your eye on?
I think the one that everyone's excited about is Josh Kerr versus Jakob in the 1500 final. I think that's going to be really interesting. There's been a really good build-up to that race, so I'd say that's really one of our big hopes.
And in terms of just future superstars, can you give us a name, you know, who may not kind of be medaling now, but, you know, the same way you saw it in Keely when she was young, and you saw this young and up and coming runner. Anyone else you're kind of keeping your eye on?
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching Phoebe Gill. She made the semi-finals of the 800. She's incredibly young, really held her own in the rounds, and I think that experience she had in Paris is going to be invaluable in 4 years' time in LA.
Oh, brilliant. Lindsay, I've learnt something. I've learnt lots. I keep doing this every programme and I love it, and hopefully our listeners do too. Thank you so much. So everyone can go back to that 200-metre moment where someone tries to creep up on Keely Hodgkinson's outside and she just shuts them down by increasing the pace. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you so much, and thanks very much for joining us. That was Lindsay Sharp, who was 2012 European 800-metre champion. Now, it is 12:33. Dina Campbell's going to keep us up to date with the news. Good afternoon, Dina.
Hi, Naga. Hundreds of people have been arrested in connection with the disorder across England and Northern Ireland over the past week. The Justice Minister, Heidi Alexander, says more than 500 additional prison places will be made available to detain those who receive custodial sentences. Police say they're treating the serious assault of a man in Belfast during last night's riots as a racially motivated hate crime. The man, who's in his 50s, is being treated in hospital after witnesses reported seeing people stamp on his head. Eluned Morgan has been confirmed as the new First Minister of Wales following a vote in the Senedd. Giving a speech in both English and Welsh, she said it's the honour of her life to become the first female leader of Wales. And the Welsh opera singer and BBC Wales presenter Wyn Evans has been announced as the third contestant for this year's Strictly Come Dancing. He'll be joined by the singer and actress Toyah Willcox.
This summer, immerse yourself in the world's greatest classical music festival. From the epic Holst and Beethoven to Sam Smith reimagined. Oh, won't you stay with me? And a symphonic Florence and the Machine. The BBC Proms. Watch on iPlayer, listen on BBC Sounds.
This is 5 Live Sports and the Olympic Games.
With Naga Munchetty.
On 5 Live and BBC Sounds.
It is 12:34. We are day 11 of the Olympics. We're already seeing remarkable competitors at the Women's Park skateboarding final, which is underway. Now, look, Team GB Sky Brown hasn't gone off yet. She's in the third heat. Colin McNamara is watching and can tell us more. Connor, this has been pretty stunning, hasn't it?
It's great to watch. It really is. And I think, you know, for any of us who, you know, when you think of skateboarding and you maybe think of a few people outside your local shopping centre or something, and most of their time is spent, frankly, sitting on their backside, it's so difficult a sport to do. But these are the elite, you know, these are the ones who know what they're doing, who've been doing it all their lives. And then even then, you know, so many have crashed here on these opening runs. We had the youngest athlete at these games, Zhang Haohao, get a clean opening 45-second run. Now, she scored 63.19. That's 63 out of 100. It puts her to 10th on the list of 12 skaters who've so far gone. So I think, as I sort of anticipated at the time, what she wanted was a clean, safe round. Rather than take any silly risks, she just wanted to enjoy the sunlight being on her as the Brazilian rider Raiko Ventura brings gasps from the crowd as she tried to force it a little bit there on her second run, but has crashed to the ground. One of the Canadian riders who went a few minutes ago, Faye Ebert, seemed to hurt herself a little bit. She was getting medical attention. Hope that she'll be okay to take part in her second run. But as a spectacle, as a sport that most people would not, you know, spend much time studying, it is great to see these best in the world showing us what they can do.
Can you remind us of Goofy and what's the other term?
Yeah, it's regular. So
I'm
clearly,
goofy.
whoever wasn't goofy, whoever first started said, right, this is the regular way, and the rest of you are goofy. In the main, if your left foot is the stronger foot, and you would use that to push yourself along, that's a goofy stance. And the other way around is if you use your right foot as the pushing force on the ground, the left foot staying up on the board. That's the regular stance. And it seems to have been pretty mixed between them. The skaters we've seen so far between the different stances, it's been pretty evenly spread out. It's just been very interesting to watch here. And we were speaking about young skaters, and you were asking me about the advantages of being young. The oldest skater here in Paris is 51 years of age. Andy McDonald, born in Massachusetts, he'll be in action tomorrow. He won 23 medals at the X Games, all of them before Zheng Haohao was even born. But he says he's still down with the kids at 51. He says he's a rad dad.
Do you know, I've heard them talk about him. I've heard some of the young skateboarders talk about him, just saying how supportive he is and how inspired they are by him as well. It's like they're not bothered about age. They just care about skill, which is perfect, isn't it?
And as it should be. I mean, I think this is one, I think because there's a fall for the French girl. She's landed on her knees. She's slid on the pads. She's emotional. I don't think it's hurt by the fall. I think it's emotional by not being able to complete the run. There's a Frenchman in a stripy shirt with a huge baguette in his arm, bellowing encouragement. But Nana Taboulet, who fell early in her first run, has now not completed her second run either. Any event we've been at, regardless the discipline, the sport of these Olympics, whenever there's a French participant, there is an electricity and energy around the arena, and they were all hoping that Taboulet was going to do well here. She was going for it. You could see the high skill level, but as she went up one of the half pipes, it's one of those where you let the board almost away from your feet, you drag it back in with her hands, and she missed it with her fingertips, so she comes crashing down to earth without a board and predictably tumbles to the bottom of the concrete course there. So disappointment for Nana Taboulet. She gets 29.53, having only got 7.41 in her first run, so very much under pressure going into her third and final run. There are 22 skaters. The top 8 of them will go through to the final this afternoon, and now is the moment for the 11-year-old from China to get in action once again. Zheng Haohao. Now, will she take on a more difficult skill level this time? It is youthful exuberance and confidence that she displays, wearing a white shirt. She takes the tumble. She jumped up, tried to flick her legs out in a can-can kick, grabbed the nose of the board underneath her, and it didn't come back, and that's the end of her second run. Zheng Haohao giving it everything at 11 years of age and getting great support from the crowd as she picks herself up and gets back to her feet.
She's a slip of a thing, isn't she? I mean, looking at her knee pads reminds me of what I was like when I was a kid. She wears these knee pads which are as wide, they kind of double the width of her actual legs.
Do you know what it is, Naga? It's like if you've an older brother or sister and your parents go, look, we spent the money on these pads, you're wearing them, it doesn't matter if they don't fit you, these are for your... I mean, realistically, and I'm not saying this is a joke, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make professional pads small enough for her. I mean, she's 11.
Yes, she's a slip of a thing. She's just done brilliantly. It's fantastic. Has she got another run left?
Yeah, she gets one more run. So her opening run, 63 out of 100. That run, which, she's fallen, she just gets 16. She gets one more run. Now, remember, you want to finish in the top 10. At the moment, and we haven't had half the field yet, her opening run of 63 is exactly 10th place. So, in theory, if all the other participants were to have shockers from here on in, she'd be good enough. But, she will expect that some of the more experienced skaters are going to overtake her now. But she does have one more run, and if she can execute that, there still perhaps could be a route. But, I don't think realistically anyone in the skating world is expecting this youngest athlete of the game, the 11th. Her gold medal was qualifying for these Olympics. That's the huge achievement, and nobody should expecting her to get to the final itself.
I'll keep an eye on it. I might try to come back to you for that run, Connor. Thanks so much. Connor McNamara there watching the Women's Park qualifying. Now, let's take you to the men's dinghy medal race. Now, that's happening later this afternoon. And Team GB is in with a chance of winning a gold. And Shoujo Saka is going to be watching the action at Marseille Marina. Shoujo, set the scene for me.
Well, this event is taking place. Well, all the sailing regatta is taking place at Marseille Marina, so right at the south of France. And Mickey Beckett of Team GB is going in the medal series in the men's dinghy. He can't win gold after having come through the opening series in 4th place, but he has got a very long shot at a silver, and he's got a realistic chance of getting a bronze medal in this. Basically, the way this works, it's a 10 race opening series. They've had loads of problems with the wind over the last week or so in Marseille, in basically not having enough wind, so they cut the 10 race series in the qualifiers down to 8. Now Mickey Beckett finished 4th in that, so he will go into the medal race where the points count double, so they carry over their performances from the opening series into the medal race, and effectively he will have to beat the Peruvian sailor Stefano Pescera by 3 places. If he does that, he will win a bronze medal. It's due for this afternoon, but as I'm learning, Naga, with the sailing schedule, it's not a schedule, it's just a guide. It really does depend on the wind. We've just seen the mixed dinghy race for the GB sailors involving John Gimson, I beg your pardon, Vita Heathcote and Chris Grube, and the wind had almost died in the middle of that. I mean,
how big's the dinghy?
The dinghy, so it's about 4.7 metres long in terms of the width, so that is 1.8 metres, so we're talking about 5 metres long, around 2 metres wide. We're talking 3 sails, so there's a main sail right in the middle of the boat, there's a slightly smaller sail at the front of the boat, that's called a head sail, and when they go downwind they open one of those, it's called a spinnaker, they just release that, and effectively that's the big balloon sail which you see at the front of the boat, and they catch a lot of the wind. The wind has been so poor today that balloon, it looked like a balloon which was sort of slightly deflated, if you know what I mean. And with sailing it's simple really. I mean, if you're going downwind you want the spinnaker up, you want as much surface area as possible for the sails to basically propel you forward. When you go upwind, then you want a lot less surface area with your sails, so you can basically have much more manoeuvrability. But there you go. I mean, they've been struggling with the wind for the last 10 days or so down at Marseille Marina.
So it's like sunbathing weather, really.
It really is. Honestly, I reckon you and I could catch them on a pedalo when it's this calm. Let's do it.
We've had the women's race, haven't we? And we saw Hannah Snellgrove miss out on the chance to win a medal. I mean, as I've always enjoyed over the last couple of weeks, it's the backstories that kind of keep you engaged as much as the actual sport.
Yes. So Great Britain's Hannah Snellgrove went through the opening series. You have to be in the top 10 to get through to the medal series, which she narrowly missed. She finished 12th. But her backstory is really interesting because she finally managed to compete at an Olympic Games, having missed out 3 times at 3 successive games, the last 3 over in London, Rio and Tokyo, and she's had so many different careers. She's worked as an obituary writer for a local paper, she's played in a folk band, she applied for a job at MI5.
Did she play the tin whistle?
You will probably know that better than me.
Yeah. She sang for this folk band, Bimbling it's called. I've even seen a picture of her, and she played the tin whistle with this folk band.
There you go.
There you go. You went for the MI5 job. Well, you didn't. You were talking about it.
I was talking about, well, she applied for an MI5 job as well. But it goes to show you, when you are not a professional sailor, but it is a dream, you take it from that level up. You were talking about riding horses as a hobby, but there's obviously quite a big gap between riding a horse as a hobby to becoming an Olympian. Yes. So, she just missed out on making the GB team for the last 3 games. She made it this time, very, very close to making a medal series, but I think she can be pretty happy with her performance there. Just talking about the women's dinghy, the Dutch sailor Marit Bouwmeester has already won the gold medal before they get into the medal series because her performances in the qualifying series was so good that she's won the gold already, and it makes her the greatest female Olympian sailor of all time. She took silver in London, gold in Rio, bronze in Tokyo, and now gold in Paris, even before the medal series. So a bit of history for Marit Bouwmeester there.
Do you know, I was just thinking, I went for a run this morning in the gym and I ran 2k longer because after watching Keely Hodgkinson, I genuinely felt inspired. Not because I thought I could be Keely or anything like her, but she inspired me to go that bit further. And I bet there are people out there who are watching, who watch whichever discipline, thinking, I'm just going to push myself a little bit more because they're working so hard for their countries.
Absolutely, and it's like the tennis courts filling up after Wimbledon, right?
Yeah.
And regarding the sailing, I don't know if you've seen the windsurfing, and if you've seen you'll see the kiteboarding over the next couple of days. We've got a couple of Brits in that, by the way, going really well, particularly in the women's kite. Ellie Aldridge, who is first after 5 races in that. They've got quite a lot of races to go through, 16 ideally, depending on the conditions. But if you see that on television, I guarantee people with children that their kids are going to say, "I'd like a go at that, please," and probably they might go, "Well, I think I'll have a go at that as well, please." I mean, the move from what we have traditionally known as windsurf boards, with a traditional surfboard with a big sail sticking out of it. I mean, that's changed. I mean, at the Olympic Games now, it's foiling. So IQ foil, they call it. The surfboard is a lot shorter, so it's sort of bodyboard length, and then you've got the mast and the sail in the middle. You've got a foil underneath as well, but they literally fly through the water.
I've seen,
spectacular to see. And the kiteboarding is like that, but just with a big kite, which catches. It looks like a paraglider's kite.
It's very
amazing.
different from windsurfing on holiday, I'll tell you that much. Shoujo, thanks so much. Shoujo Osaka there at Marseille Marina. I'm going to take you back to Conor McNamara. Conor, you're at the women's skate park. I've just seen Nana Taboulet, who's representing France, in tears as she fell off again. Tell us more. The pressure of performing in front of your home crowd.
The pressure of performing, a 15-year-old, and she'll be so gutted because she's fallen now on all 3 runs. That's it. That's her Olympics over. She's not been able to complete any of the 3 chances. You can have 2 bad rounds, but as long as you do well in one of them, it's enough to get you through. She got to the top of a box and her feet just came off, and she instantly knew, hands up to her eyes. And it's this combination, Naga. I don't know, as I get older, I get more emotional about these things. The combination of she's so proud, she's thanking the crowd, she's appreciative for the love that they're showing her, and yet she's so upset in herself because in training she can do this. She wouldn't be at the Olympics, and yet here on the day, and isn't that it across every sport and discipline? To get to the Olympics, you're good at it, but can you do it on the day when it really counts? And poor old 15-year-old Nana Taboulet there is distraught with tears, and it's very emotional to see.
And yet, in contrast, we have a whippet of a competitor who's just taken a tumble.
So Zheng Haohao, who we've been discussing, the youngest athlete at these Olympic Games, having had a safe round on her first run, 63.19 score, has now fallen on her 2 subsequent. I think it's going for it. It's feeling, look, I'm here at the Olympics, in sort of football parlance, we might as well lose 4-0. It's the cup. We're going out anyway. Why not give it? She's tried a few more difficult techniques there, but she's not been able to have a clean run. You could see that the board went out to the side of her body. She tried to drag it back in with her hand, but the 11-year-old, who has been sprung into the spotlight as the youngest athlete in any sport, comes across, gets a high five from her coach, and what a story she's to tell when she goes home. I mean, all of us at 11 who are playing sport in our back garden, she's just competed at the Olympics.
I know. Do you know what will be a sweet picture when she talks to her family on that?
Yes.
What's it called? That thing?
Yeah, the athlete's moment, they call
That's
it.
Yeah, because they get to talk to their families back home if they haven't been able to join them. So it's brilliant. Listen, from my goofy to your regular, and I know you're keeping an eye. Sky Brown's going to come in Mark Chapman's time, I think.
Lola Tambling's up there. There's 2 more. There's an American and Australian, then Lola Tambling, who's this 16-year-old from Cornwall, and then there's an Australian, and then after that, Sky Brown gets underway. So all in the next, certainly next 25 minutes thereabouts.
David's been in touch via text. He says, great show. He's been listening to us talking about Goofy and Regular, right? And he says, hi, Naga. And this is something for you when you question, because I hope you're going to question Mark as to whether he's goofy or not.
Well, we know the answer to that, yeah.
Out of your words, out of your mouth. The term Goofy, David says, comes from a Walt Disney film where Goofy was seen surfing right foot forward. Hence the term Goofy.
Very good. I will be making note of that for my commentary. Thank you very much.
Do you know what? The text number is 85058. Our listeners are a wealth of information. All right. So if you have any of these brilliant facts and you share them with us, we will go on to share them, because these are the things that we all chat about over a coffee or a glass of something when we're being armchair experts, and we love them. So the more the merrier, don't you think, Connor?
No, absolutely. I mean, every day is a school day
Exactly.
on the Five Live team at the Olympics. But every day you hear several things, not just one or two. You hear several things. You go, "What? That's so interesting."
I know. I can't get enough. Can't get enough. Connor, it's been a joy this morning.
Cheers, Naga.
Fingers
Enjoyed.
crossed for Sky. Yeah, enjoy it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And David, thank you very much for that goofy knowledge. Now, I'm going to go turn my attention to some boxing for a few minutes, because the row over the global governance of boxing today has taken another twist. So, a spokesperson for the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, has said that boxing needs a new federation to run the sport. So the IOC stripped the International Boxing Association of recognition last year over what it described as a failure to implement reforms on governance and finance. And then, as you're all aware, the action in the ring at these Olympics has been partly overshadowed by an eligibility row, particularly focused on two boxers, the fighters from Algeria and Taiwan, who had been cleared to compete at the Games in Paris by the IOC, despite the pair being disqualified from the 2023 Women's World Championships after the International Boxing Association, which organised the event, claimed that they'd both failed gender eligibility tests. It is a bit confusing, but it's worth unpicking. And Tom Gray is the deputy editor of The Sporting News, and here's the person who can unpick this for us. Tom, I've got about 3 minutes with you, but and I know it's not the most time in the world, but this seems like like Mr. Messi, the Mr. Men character. It just seems like that, a load of squiggly lines, and there's no clear path.
Yeah, I mean, there's grey area in both sides. It's typical boxing. Usually it's reserved for professional boxing, but the fact that it's in the amateurs is a bit unique. You lined it up perfectly. I mean, the IBA are no longer governing Olympic boxing. So basically the IOC has been doing it ad hoc, and they take the gender information from the NOC. So every country has a National Olympic Committee. That's what they do. And the IOC do not recognise any form of independent testing. And because I get the impression that because the IBA were taken out of the equation last year, as you said, that there's major angst there. So every time the IOC do something in relation to boxing, the IBA have got something to say. But they held a press conference yesterday and pretty much discussed everything with the exception of the business at hand. So it became a bit of a farce. So no further forward. These girls are allowed to compete. Both girls, to my knowledge, from what I've read, and I've researched it a bit since last Thursday, were born female. There's rumour, because this hasn't been confirmed either, that they've got differences in sexual, differences in... I'm losing my train of thought there.
Are you thinking of the chromosome?
Yes.
XY.
XY. So basically, they've not been able to... They're able to compete under IOC regulations, despite the fact that they were disqualified from the World Championships last year. So it's just a mess.
So why can't the IOC and IBA, the International Olympic Committee, the International Boxing Association, find any common ground here?
Well, just exactly what I'd said there. I mean, incidentally, that was differences in sexual development is what I was looking for, which is a condition that both these girls are rumoured to have. The reason they can is because the IOC have done testing on these girls last year, at the World Championships, and they have, to their knowledge, that these girls have failed gender eligibility tests. There was also rumour of high testosterone levels, which they're saying is giving an advantage to these girls when they're competing. But if you look at it, Amin Khalif, the Algerian girl, has had 43 amateur contests. She's had 6 knockouts. Now, that's not the resume of a knockout artist or a girl that's got a power advantage. And the girl from Taiwan, Lin Yuting, has got 1 knockout in 41 wins. Now, does that sound like someone that's got a major strength advantage or a power advantage? Where this all seems to have stemmed from is Khalif scoring a first-round knockout last week. That's what sent the whole thing into a tailspin. You're not going to get any common ground on it. And IB are never going to be governing boxing again at the Olympics. But as I understand it, the IOC need someone to govern it. They've just not selected anyone yet. And if they don't get someone to do it, they're going to take boxing out of the Olympics. That's also been rumoured.
It is complicated, but we will keep kind of unpicking and explaining because that's what we do here at Five Live. Tom, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tom Gray, Deputy Editor of the Sporting News. Enjoy the rest of the Olympics, Tom. Speak again.
You too. Take care.
Take care. It is. So I'll just say we have just heard from the IOC.
No problem. Take care, pal. Bye-bye.
That was Tom saying goodbye to our team. The IOC has said boxing needs a new federation to run the sport. So that row keeps going on and on. Mark Chapman is going to take over at 1:00. He's got so much that's going to happen in the next few hours. We have had a golden start for Team GB in the velodrome.
This is heading to the bell. Great Britain against New Zealand for the gold medal. Where are we on the split? Great Britain in front. Emma Finucane. She is a blur of blue on a bike, fizzing down the back straight in the velodrome. Can she bring it home into that final bend? Now into the home straight. Emma Finucane is going to get there and take the gold medal for Great Britain in a new world record. They've smashed it again. How about that?
How about that indeed? Emma Finucane, Sophie Capewell, Katie Marchant have become Team GB's, Great Britain's first Olympic women's team sprint to win gold. Oh, and by the way, they threw in a couple of world records that were smashed in the process. Can you tell I'm excited? Alistair Bruce-Ball was watching it all for Five Live. Alistair, I had you on and the TV on as well. And honestly, I was hopping. I just was hopping and pacing. It was just brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you what can reassure you, Naga, if you're sitting in the velodrome alongside Victoria Pendleton, who has obviously competed in those very events for Great Britain, is she knows. She can call those races before I can see what's going to happen. And there was a little yelp from Victoria there with about 100 metres to go that basically said Finucane's got this in the bag. Now, obviously, you don't want to say that until it actually happens, but
she's
no, it was an astonishing performance, and it's particularly astonishing, Naga, because at the last two Olympic Games, Great Britain's women haven't even qualified a team for that event, so they really have come from nowhere. You know, put a team together, worked incredibly hard, peaked at the right time, and smashed it out of the park, and it was very inspiring, and it was very emotional in there.
Yeah, it was. I was emotional in my kitchen as I was jumping around watching it. But Laura Kenny has called eight golds. There is an optimism around this team. Yeah. She's gone big. Well, she's gone big and is not apologising for it because she's saying, and you've alluded to this, the work ethic, the push the team has done in terms of, the cycling prowess it's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I would say two things on that. Great Britain are renowned for timing their run perfectly into an Olympic Games in the velodrome. So quite often other nations will beat them in various events at World Championships and then are left scratching their heads because GB turn up at the Olympics and have found something a little bit extra. And sometimes that's in the design of the bike or the skin suit or just, peaking your performance at the right time. But the other thing I think, Naga, that will give the reason that Laura Kenny is so confident there is I think that has just set the whole week off so well that the other teams will look at that and think, blimey, that team was nowhere for the last 8 years and look at what they've done. And it might send a little sort of, ripple of fear and intimidation through the rest of the teams in the velodrome. I mean, the men's team sprint will go tonight. They were second fastest in qualifying yesterday. But if they're going to match the women, they've got to try and be the Dutch team that is just the best team in the world and has been for a long time in the men's team sprint. So they've really got their hands full there. But, eight golds would be quite something if they managed that.
Well, she called it. I don't
But we're not to argue with her, are we?
Exactly, or Victoria Pendleton. May I say, I spoke to Alison Kirbishley earlier. She was a bit croaky after all the screaming. May I offer the same advice? Lemon, ginger, hot honey. Hot honey and lemon, because I need you this afternoon because I'll be in my kitchen from 4:30 jumping around. I need you, Al.
Yeah, I'll do my best. No, you're right, Naga. I always tend to go with a bit of honey, bit of lemon.
Ginger.
Just to try and ginger, okay.
And astringent. It's very good for you. Alistair Bruce-Ball, I'm so excited about it. I'll hear you later, okay? Thank you.
Thanks,
You'll be in my ears later. Thank you. As I promised, you have the wonderful Mark Chapman and the equally wonderful teams of our sports correspondents and enthusiasts bringing you live coverage of and, of course, every Team GB medal from the Paris Olympics. Mark Chapman will be taking over at 1. Thank you from me. I'll be back tomorrow. Now it's time for the news.